Chapter 652. Ding 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 ding. Crisp sounds like steel colliding with steel rang from all directions around Noah. Divide eat. Then the Baoyu on Varley's body also made a sound, making the air scales around Noah's body suddenly dim, and its power was directly reduced by half. Boost pressurization. However, almost at the same time, the Baoyu on Noah's hand also made a sound, making the air scales around his body suddenly brighten and return to their original state. Facing Noah's impregnable defense, Varley, who knew that there was not much time left and that he couldn't keep wasting time with Noah, suddenly changed the light wings behind him. The countless sharp spear-like attacks that covered Noah's body like raindrops condensed together like lightning. On the light wings, a vast amount of dragon power surged out like a flood. In the blink of an eye, the tip of the light wings flashed with a dazzling light, drawing an extremely tricky arc. Like a meteor, it fiercely pierced towards one of the air scales on Noah's body. Noah's senses that far exceeded his wild instinct and intuition allowed him to perceive the trajectory of the extremely tricky attack. At that moment, Noah's heart tightened, and he quickly raised the hand covered by the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, blocking in a direction as if he had foreseen it. Ding! The next moment, the sharp spear-like light wings and the scarlet-red ferocious gauntlets fiercely collided with each other, causing sparks to fly in all directions. Even this won't work? The attack was neutralized, and even Varley's eyes hidden under the dragon-like helmet flashed with a touch of surprise. Immediately, the sharp spear-like light wings that pierced the scarlet-red ferocious gauntlets suddenly spun at high speed like a top, bringing about a burst of wind-breaking sound. Then how about this? The sharp end of the high-speed rotation drilled into the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear. Immediately after, it twisted in a strange manner, and a terrifying force erupted from it. Clang! With a resounding sound, Noah's hand, which was covered by the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, was actually knocked away. A chance! Suddenly, Noah's figure suddenly rushed forward like a ferocious giant beast. He raised his hand, which could no longer be called a fist, but a claw. He waved it directly at Noah, bringing a fierce claw wind, and fiercely fell on Noah's chest. The ferocious dragon claw landed on the gorgeous air scale. Divide eat. The halved ability of the White Dragon Emperor's diving splitting was activated. However, this time, Noah didn't have the chance to activate the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear ability. On every part of the armor on Wally's body, all the jade gems flickered. Divide eat, divide eat, divide eat, divide eat, divide eat, divide eat. Without the slightest pause, Wally launched the diving dividing wings of the White Dragon Emperor, more than 10 times in a short span of 1 second. Poochie! Wally's ferocious dragon claw directly tore apart the air scale around Noah's body. Seeing this, even Noah's expression changed. Almost under the control of his instinct, which far exceeded his wild nature and intuition, he raised the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear in front of him. Clang! The ferocious dragon claw suddenly fell heavily on the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, causing a crisp sound, and at the same time, it also aroused a powerful impact. Noah felt as if his arm had been hit hard by something heavy. A powerful force hit his body, causing him to involuntarily take a step back. Looking at the unyielding Wally who continued to pounce on him, Noah's eyes flashed with a touch of sharpness. Immediately, his feet fiercely stomped on the ground, and the violent magic in his body suddenly poured into the ground. Boom! In the muffled sound of an explosion, the whole ground suddenly burst open. Boom! A burst of terrifying magic, like magma erupting from a volcano, suddenly rushed out from the ground. Like a surging wave, it bombarded Wally's body. Boom! The powerful impact composed of pure magic directly sent Wally, who was pouncing on Noah like a violent dragon, flying backward. At this moment, in front of Noah, a gorgeous magic array also rotated. Like a huge cannon muzzle, it was filled with oppressive magic, turning into a huge magic light beam. It rubbed against the air, causing a sharp sound of explosion, and fiercely fell on Wally who was flying backward. Boom boom, boom boom boom. Suddenly, along with the sound of explosions, a burst of dense flames also exploded from Wally's body, setting off an overwhelming wave of fire. Under the bombardment of one magic beam after another, Varley cut a sorry figure. After using the Juggernaut drive, the defense of Wally's armor was no less than Noah's air scale. Therefore, the pure magic light beam did not cause much damage to Wally. However, the magic light beam that fell on Wally's body had the dragon-slaying effect of Noah's Dragon Emperor incarnation. Varley couldn't ignore the fact that it contained a powerful destructive effect against dragon-type creatures. Therefore, an extremely obscure damage penetrated the armor and directly hit Wally's body. Wally groaned, gritted his teeth, and converted all the magic in his body into defensive properties, and fiercely rushed out of his body. With a loud roar, a surge of mana surged out of Wally's body and blasted into the surrounding airwaves, forcibly dispersing the incoming beams of mana and intense flames. Tizke. Wally was speechless. Even the Juggernaut drive can't defeat him. Wally, the power of that Godslayer is definitely comparable to those guys in the top 10. Your previous evaluation of him was too low. Arubian also spoke. Now you have consumed more than half of your magic power. If you continue to be in a stalemate, when your magic power is exhausted, your life will be in danger, and you will even lose your mind. There is not much time left. Wally naturally understood Arubian's meaning. Originally, Wally was using his powerful magic to replace the consumption of his life, to perform the Juggernaut drive for a short period of time. Once Wally's magic power was exhausted, the side effects of the Juggernaut drive would definitely make Wally suffer. In that case, let's decide the outcome with one move. Wally made up his mind, soared into the sky, and arrived in the air above Chariot King Academy. On Wally's back, the faint blue light wings fully unfolded, shaking a wave of ripples. White Dragon Emperor's domain half-dimension. Waves of fluctuations reverberated from the fully unfolded light wings behind Wally, spreading in all directions. Buzz, 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 buzz. Wherever the ripple-like fluctuations passed, the space actually trembled and began to distort. The white guy is going all out. On the ground, Drake's voice directly sounded in Noah's mind. Partner, that technique is capable of having the size of all targets within a certain range, including space itself. I reckon that it's that guy's final and strongest attack. So you've already won. Don't you want to consider using your other incarnations? No need, Drake. Now is the time to use that move. Looking at Wally in the air, Noah's eyes flickered. Drake, are you okay? If you're right, Drake said cheerfully. Come and try your balance breaker. Chapter 653. Every sacred gear had its own balance breaker. However, in order to reach the balance breaker state, the sacred gear owner's emotions and desires had to be strong enough to reverse the flow of the world. Otherwise, no matter how strong they were, they would not be able to reach the balance breaker state. Ever since he was young, Noah had been forcing himself to stay calm in order not to let the overly massive magic power go berserk. Although his emotions couldn't be said to be unaffected, they were so strong that they could reverse the flow of the world. That was something that had never happened until now. Then, how could Noah reach the balance breaker state? At this point, Noah had an idea. Since the condition to reach the balance breaker state was that one's emotions and desires had to be strong enough to reverse the flow of the world, then if he skipped the steps of emotions and desires and directly reversed the flow of the world for himself, would he be able to reach the balance breaker state? If this idea was known by others, they would definitely laugh their heads off. Let's not talk about whether it would work or not. Even if it did work, how would he reverse the flow of the world for himself? Could it be that the world should revolve for a single person? That was simply a joke. However, when it came to Noah, it was not a joke. Gaia and Aleia had once said that the world would not refuse Noah's request. Thus, if Noah requested the world to reverse the flow of the world for him, it was completely possible. This way, Noah would most likely reach the balance breaker state. Now it was time to test this possibility. Noah raised the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, high above his head, his eyes shining with an unprecedented brilliance. Please turn once for my sake. Noah's voice was like an echo, reverberating in the sky above Chariot King Academy. It reverberated through the buildings, past the demons, angels and fallen angels. It reverberated through the barrier that covered Chariot King Academy, and even penetrated the barrier, reverberating between heaven and earth. Ding! At this moment, a strange bell-like sound that only Noah could hear entered his heart. Clank! At this moment, in Noah's hand, the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear glowed with a dazzling light. Then Deleg shouted, "Success!" Even without Drake's reminder, Noah could clearly feel it. Noah could feel a powerful force seeping out of the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, directly affecting his own body. Without hesitation, Noah poured all the mana in his body into the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear. Balance breaker. In Noah's hand, the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear disintegrated into pieces and covered Noah's body. At the same time, the air scales around Noah's body shook and merged into the pieces. In midair, Wally's heart tightened. What happened? "This is troublesome, Wally," Arubian said in a deep voice. "That man has reached the balance breaker level." Arubian's words directly made Wally's heart tremble. Balance breaker? Noah has reached the balance breaker level? Didn't Noah just become the Red Dragon Emperor not long ago? How did he reach the balance breaker level? "Wally," Arubian murmured in a dreamy voice. "Perhaps we still underestimated the God Slayer." As soon as Arubian finished speaking, Noah's posture on the ground was exposed to the air. Upon closer inspection, Noah still looked the same. There was no change in his body at all, and he was not equipped with armor like Wally. However, around Noah's body, there seemed to be a phantom dragon that directly overlapped on top and attached to Noah's body. The phantom dragon was like a gas, fluctuating around Noah's body like a set of dragon-shaped full-body armor. The armor was almost the same as the armor Wally was equipped with when he used the balance breaker. The only difference was that it was crimson. Wally was stunned. "What is that?" Not to mention Wally, even Noah raised his hand in surprise. He looked at the crimson armor on his hand that was like a layer of phantom, and asked in confusion, "Is this the balance breaker of the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear?" "Buddy, don't doubt it, that is indeed your balance breaker." Drake's voice also had a hint of surprise. "However, your balance breaker seems to have fused with your gas scales, turning the original solid armor into a red gas-like armor. It should be called a gas armor, right? Gas armor. Feel it yourself and you'll know. Although there's no materialized armor, you've indeed used balance breaker, and your strength has increased explosively." Indeed, as Drake said, Noah could feel an explosive power surging in his body. Now you can use the ability to multiply and transfer at any time at any ratio, and because of the fusion of the gas scales, the hardness of the armor has increased sharply. Drake's surprise began to turn into excitement. "Don't worry about the battle. I will help you keep an eye on your balance breaker state." Hearing this, Noah smirked, raised his head, and looked at Wally in the air. "Then Wally, try taking my attack." As soon as he finished speaking, Noah raised his hand in the direction of the air. Wang! A huge magic array that was taller than a person suddenly expanded in front of Noah's palm. Inside, waves of terrifying magic began to flow. Then, on the scarlet gas-like armor around Noah's body, illusionary gems flickered. Boost, 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 boost. As the voices rang out, the magic array in front of Noah vibrated repeatedly. As the voices rang out, the magic array expanded abruptly, and the mana surging within it also became extremely terrifying. In the end, the incomparably huge magic array produced a thunder-like sound of ripples. Inside, the terrifying magic seemed to have turned into a huge beam of light like a meteor, piercing through the sky. Under the countless shocked gazes of the surrounding demons, angels and fallen angels, it burst toward Wally. Looking at the huge beam of light that burst toward him, Wally laughed, and he laughed excitedly. "Then let me take a look." Along with Wally's loud laughter, the void around the huge beam of light seemed to have completely solidified at this moment. In the next second, the solidification between heaven and earth was suddenly broken, and the surrounding space also rapidly squirmed at this moment, vibrating circles of ripples that swept across the entire surrounding space. Wong 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 wong. As the circles of ripples swept across the space violently shook like a lake, and began to distort. Gotcha! Under the situation where half of its volume was exploited, The space itself had already directly cracked under the bone-chilling sound. Rubbing against the air, the huge beam of light that made heaven and earth tremble bombarded that side of the space. Boom! An earth-shattering noise resounded through the sky. Chapter 654. Rumble. Like meteorites colliding with each other in the universe, an earth-shattering sound reverberated. Rumble. The entire Chariot King Academy trembled slightly at this moment. Gotcha! On the ground, huge fissures spread out like a spider web. Bang! The sturdy buildings quickly collapsed under the loud sound waves. Boom! Ripples filled with the force of the collision rapidly spread out from the point of impact. Finally, they heavily bombarded the boundary around Chariot King Academy, causing it to tremble continuously. The members of the demon, angel, and fallen angel factions that were maintaining the barrier all revealed looks of horror. The thunderous explosion shook the entire Horse King Academy's buildings. At this moment, in the center of the Horse King Academy, in a distorted space, like a churning volcanic crater, dense flames were constantly stirring up, turning into waves of fire that spread out in an arc. At this moment, the space of the Horse King Academy began to violently tremble, and huge cracks spread along the space itself, shattering like glass. It was a scene of the end of the world. In the Horse King Academy, countless people raised their heads and looked at the waves of fire rolling in the distorted space with shock. Even if they weren't in the middle of it, many people still felt that the air seemed to have become much hotter. In the waves of fire that distorted space, Varley raised his hand and firmly resisted a huge beam of light. His whole body seemed to be on fire, crazily burning with magical power. Clearly, the White Dragon Emperor's domain half-dimension from before wasn't able to completely block Noah's attack that had multiplied by who knows how many times. Although the terrifying beam of light was directly weakened by half by the White Dragon Emperor's domain, half-dimension, and was weakened by more than 80% in the distorted space, the remaining power still allowed the beam of light to fall on Varley's body. Fortunately, at this point, Varley wasn't unable to block it. Divide, eat, divide, eat, divide, eat, divide, eat, divide, eat, divide, eat, divide, eat. The jade armor on his body continuously rang out, causing waves of fluctuations to linger around Varley's body, acting on the beam of light. Buzz. Under the effect of the powerful having ability, the beam of light that had multiplied by who knows how many times finally began to dim, and its volume became smaller and smaller. Divide, eat. When the last sound rang out, the beam of magic power that had struck Varley finally weakened to the size of an arm, and slowly dissipated. Bang! At the same time, the armor on Varley's hands were completely shattered, exposing his hands. A pair of hands that were dripping with blood, and even the skin had completely festered. Ha! 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 Varley was gasping for breath, and the mana in his body was getting weaker and weaker. It had already weakened to the point where it couldn't be seen. Enough! Varley! Arubian's voice sounded anxiously, which was rare. Remove the Juggernaut Drive state. Otherwise, it will deprive you of your life and make you lose your mind. Hearing this, Varley's heart was filled with unwillingness. That was because on the ground below, Noah, who was covered in overlapping phantoms like a crimson dragon, was still unscathed. The magic power on his body did not show any signs of weakening at all. It was still as vast and powerful as before. If it weren't for the fact that he would lose his mind if he continued to maintain the Juggernaut Drive state, Varley definitely wouldn't mind continuing to fight if it was only depriving his life. Varley didn't want to live for long at all. As long as he could fight with the strong, it didn't matter if his life was reduced by thousands or tens of thousands of years. Anyway, the lifespan of a demon was ridiculously long, and Varley didn't care about reducing his lifespan by thousands or tens of thousands of years. But if he lost his mind, that was another matter. After all, Varley wanted to enjoy the process of fighting. If he lost his mind, he wouldn't be enjoying the process of fighting at all, but would be obsessed with the result of the battle. Varley had no choice but to remove the Juggernaut Drive state. Bang! The armor all over his body shattered, revealing Varley's original figure. After landing on the ground, Varley only felt a burst of weakness in his body. He couldn't help but kneel on one knee, clutching his chest. His face was pale, but his eyes were still staring ahead. There, Noah maintained a red gaseous dragon-shaped armor and met Varley's gaze. It's a pity. If you could continue to use the Juggernaut drive, you might be able to continue fighting with me. But now your magic power is almost exhausted, and your physical strength is almost gone. You can't even use the balance breaker. It's impossible for you to be my opponent. Varley was speechless. After fully understanding Noah's true strength, Varley knew that it was impossible for him to defeat Noah. Even after using the Juggernaut drive, he couldn't do anything to Noah, let alone now when he couldn't even use the balance breaker. After using the Juggernaut drive, Varley's strength could already be ranked in the top 10 in the world. But after all, it was only for a few minutes. He couldn't really fight with those guys who could be ranked in the top 10. At most, he could only deal with those guys for a few minutes. Noah, on the other hand, undoubtedly had the qualifications to be ranked in the top 10. Just like what Arubian said. Varley previously underestimated Noah's strength. Bang! At this time, a loud noise came from the direction of the school building. Ah! In a chorus of screams, several figures flew out from the explosion of the school building. Like a kite with a broken string, they were scorched black and smoke rose from their bodies. They fell one after another around Varley. Seeing this, Varley's face changed. But Noah raised his eyebrows and smiled. It seems that the so-called descendants of the old Demon King are nothing more than this. The figures that fell around Varley were Cadilia, Karuba, and Cruzelii, who had previously made a high-profile appearance. As the descendants of the three Demon Kings, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus, these three demons were now gasping for breath and were on the verge of death. And in the distance, Sazax, Asashel, and Michael flew over with Lise, Canna, and a group of followers and landed on the side. Teacher. Lise and the other girls looked at the crimson dragon-shaped aura armor on Noah, and were all surprised. Even Sazax and Michael seemed to be a little surprised, let alone Lise and the others. Asashel looked directly at Varley, and sighed after a long time. You lost, Varley. It seems so. Varley forced himself to stand up, his eyes still staring at Noah with a burning gaze. As expected of the Godslayer. It's great that such a person can become my rival. Hearing this, Asashel's sigh became even more obvious. Are you not going to surrender? I admit that I lost this time, but it's too early to surrender. I still have more powerful enemies to challenge. Varley glanced at Asashel, and then looked straight at Noah. I'll say the same thing again. I'll be back. After saying so, a magic array appeared beneath Vale's body, enveloping him. He then teleported away, disappearing without a trace. From the beginning to the end, Asashel did not stop him, and just looked at him in a daze. Is this okay? Noah said faintly. The next time we meet, we'll be enemies again. It's okay. Asashel pretended to be calm, and looked at Noah with a smile. Aren't you still here? Noah immediately rolled his eyes, and the crimson dragon-shaped aura armor on his body slowly disappeared. One by one, demons, angels, and fallen angels began to fly over. Presumably, the next period of time would be used to clean up the mess. Chapter 655. Early in the morning, Chariot King Academy's old schoolhouse. In the open space in front of the old schoolhouse, Noah's eyes were tightly closed. Crimson gas was constantly rolling around his body, sometimes condensing into the shape of scales, sometimes condensing into the shape of an armor, and sometimes condensing into the shape of a dragon. After an unknown amount of time, the crimson gas fluctuating around Noah's body formed into a layer of dragon-shaped armor. It was as if a dragon's phantom directly overlapped on Noah's body. The aura on his body gradually carried a trace of the unique fierceness and ruthlessness of a dragon, which was very oppressive. If one looked carefully, they would notice. Compared to the last time when he fought with Varley, the crimson dragon-shaped armor on Noah's body not only became more solid, the scales on the armor were also quite clear. Even the eyes on the dragon-shaped armor's head were shining, as if there was a real dragon overlapping on Noah's body. It was very realistic. Phew! Then Noah let out a sigh of relief and opened his eyes. It seems that the most stable state of the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear, Balance Breaker, can only stop here. Compared to when you first used Balance Breaker, It is indeed a lot more stable. In terms of proficiency, you have already reached the peak. Drake's voice sounded in Noah's mind. In your current state, the duration of your balance breaker can be counted in years. Even if you continuously use it, you can still maintain it for at least 3 months. Really, this is the first time I've seen a host who can use balance breaker to such an extent. You really are an abnormal guy. As a legitimate descendant of the Demon King, Varley relied on the Demon King's bloodline to be so amazing. He was even able to use the curse-like Juggernaut Drive for a short period of time. One could imagine his ability. However, even so, Varley could only maintain Balance Breaker for a month. If he continuously used it, the duration would be shortened to about a day. This was already very terrifying. Unfortunately, Noah broke the rules even more than Wally. Although he didn't have the Demon King's bloodline, Noah was the type with unlimited potential. His innate magic power was so great that even Tony could be compared to the Godslayer. After becoming a Godslayer, Noah's magic power was indescribably vast. As a descendant of the Demon King, Wally's magic power was immeasurable. It could even be used as a temporary consumption of his life to use the Juggernaut Drive. But even so, Wally's magic power was still inferior to that of the Godslayer. Before Noah had become a Godslayer, his magic power was already comparable to a Godslayer's. After becoming a Godslayer, his magic power was at a foul level among the Godslayers. Compared to Wally, he was much stronger. In addition, the Godslayer could grow in battle, but Noah could grow even if he didn't fight. With such innate conditions coupled with infinite potential and comprehension, even Wally could maintain Balance Breaker for a month, not to mention Noah. As Drager said, Noah was an abnormal guy. Even so, Noah wanted to become even more abnormal. Hey Drager. Noah asked with some expectation. I can also use Juggernaut Drive, right? Noah couldn't forget the strength of Wally when he used Juggernaut Drive. Originally, Wally couldn't be compared to Noah, and Noah didn't think that Wally could compete with him at first. As a result, after using Juggernaut Drive, Wally was able to make Noah take him seriously. If it weren't for the fact that Wally's Juggernaut Drive couldn't be used for too long, only for a few minutes, then Noah wouldn't have been able to win so easily. After using Juggernaut Drive, Wally was no weaker than the Godslayers like Orban and Luo Hao. In this way, if Noah could also use Juggernaut Drive, it would be a real foul. After all, Noah's physique was immune to all side effects. Once he could use Juggernaut Drive, it would be a complete representation of this power. Unfortunately, you won't be able to use the Juggernaut Drive. When Noah was full of expectations, Drager poured a basin of cold water on him. The so-called Juggernaut refers to the ability of the sacred gear that has a sealed monster. The sacred gear of the 2 heavenly dragons is called the Juggernaut Drive, because there is a sealed dragon. Now, I have been separated from the sacred gear, and have been absorbed by your soul. Your sacred gear no longer has a sealed dragon in it, so how can you use Juggernaut Drive? Noah was suddenly speechless. Noah really didn't think that the result would be like this. If you want to say it, I am your Juggernaut Drive. If you want to use Juggernaut Drive, then just summon me. Drager said indifferently. Also, Juggernaut Drive is not a good thing. It is the power of a curse. If you can stop this power, to be honest, I am relieved. At this point, Drager changed the topic. You're already strong enough. Even if you can't use the Juggernaut Drive, your body's strength isn't any weaker than the Juggernaut Drive. You're definitely one of the top existences in this world. You should be satisfied. Hearing Drager's words, Noah couldn't help but ponder. Now Noah finally knew how strong he was in this world. Heavenly dragons like Drager and Arubian could be ranked in the top 10. Existences like Noah, Warban and Luo Hao, who were quite foul in the Godslayer, could also be ranked in the top 10 in this world. Even if he didn't take into account a trump card like the Warrior Avatar, the Beast Horde Avatar that could summon Bio and Drager, and the Elf Avatar that had no combat power, there weren't many in this world who could do anything to Noah if he only used the other 7 avatars. But should he really be satisfied? One had to know that the person ranked first had limitless power, not to mention others. Noah didn't dare to say that he could compare to that person. If that was the case, could he really be satisfied? No, I still have more possibilities that I haven't unearthed. Noah's eyes flashed. If I can use my 10 avatars further, my strength will greatly increase. That's right. Further use. Noah had already used the power of the 10 avatars to the extreme and unearthed all the possibilities. The next step was to persevere and strengthen it. However, that was only for the use of one avatar. If Noah could use 2 avatars at the same time, what would it be like? If it was possible, what would happen if he used 3, 4, 5, or even the final 10 avatars at the same time? Noah had this idea for a long time. Now, it was time for him to make further use of his authority. It wasn't familiarity, control, or unearthing, but a further sublimation. I haven't reached my limit yet. I still have more room for improvement. Noah clenched his fists, his eyes abnormally bright. After canceling the use of the Dragon Emperor, Noah walked towards the old school building. Chapter 656. In the Paranormal Research Department, Leia stared at Noah in astonishment, losing her composure. You want to challenge my brother? It was not just Leah. Even Junai, Kitten, Aisha, Genova, Irina, Label, Kiba Yuto and the others were stunned on the spot. Era. Junai, who had always been at a loss. What's going on? Sensei. Aisha panicked. Is there some misunderstanding between you and Lord Syzax? No, you're thinking too much. Noah smiled bitterly and shook his head. I just want to challenge Syzax, that's all. Challenge the Demon King. Genova stared blankly at Noah. But you're both the Godslayer and the Crimson Dragon Emperor. The previous few battles have already proven that you're no weaker than any god or demon king. Why do you still want to challenge the Demon King? It's just as Aisha said. Is there some misunderstanding? Irina raised her hand meekly. Actually, we can all sit down and talk. Don't be rash. Lord Noah. Even Lei Bei Air was flustered. She no longer cared about her usual haughtiness and blurted out incoherently. If you hurt Lord Syzax, the demons will be furious. Kitten did not say anything in particular. She just stared at Noah with a puzzled gaze, as if trying to read something from Noah's expression. She was quite serious. One could only imagine how shocking Noah's words were. Challenging Syzax. That was indeed quite shocking. Undoubtedly, Noah and Syzax did not have any conflict. Why would he suddenly want to challenge Syzax? I'm sorry, Sensei. I don't know what you're planning, but could you please give up on that idea? Leah's brow was already tightly furrowed. Big Brother is the Demon King. He has already put in a lot of effort to maintain the order of the underworld. Furthermore, the 3 great forces are currently in the process of concluding a peace treaty. There are many things that need to be done. If possible, I hope that teacher will not propose any challenges at this time. Leah was hinting at Noah not to add to the mess. However, Noah did not change his mind so easily. That's fine. I just want to trouble you to pass the challenge letter. As for the time of the challenge, it's fine if we wait until Syzax is free. Noah made a direct declaration. All in all, I will definitely fight Syzax. Just pass on the message for me. With that, Noah turned around, intending to leave without waiting for Leah's answer. Wait. And seeing that Noah didn't seem to be joking at all, Lias panicked all of a sudden. Without caring about anything else, she hurried forward and grabbed Noah's hand. Shouldn't you at least tell me why you want to challenge my brother? I remember that you get along quite well with him, don't you? It seemed that even Leah thought that Noah was challenging Syzax because he had some conflict with the Demon King. At that moment, Noah could only shake his head helplessly. So don't worry. I don't have any conflict with Syzax. I just need an opponent. Opponent. Everyone present, including Leah, was stunned. Yes, an opponent. Noah narrowed his eyes and smiled suddenly. An evenly matched opponent. That was the reason why Noah challenged Syzax. As early as the first time he saw Syzax, Noah had sensed that Syzax had an aura that was not inferior to that of an ordinary deicide, and could even catch up with ancient deicides like Warban and Luo Hao. At that time, Noah did not understand the extent of power in this world. and thought that the demon kings were about this level of strength. But now, after a period of understanding and Drake's explanation, Noah already knew that ordinary gods and demon kings could not reach this level of strength at all. Other things aside, as the leader of the fallen angels, Syzax definitely had the strength of a demon king or above. However, Noah felt that Syzax's strength was not at the level of deicides like Warban and Luo Hao. Syzax, on the other hand, could reach the level of an ancient deicides like Warban and Luo Hao, which proved that Syzax's strength could also be ranked in the top 10 in this world. In this way, Noah had a reason to challenge Syzax. It had been said before that ordinary training could not make a deicide stronger. A deicides could only become stronger in battle. Although Noah would enter a state of self-enhancement when he was not using it because of the past limited ability of the fusion of authority, that was at most an increase in the strength of authority itself. If Noah wanted to reach a new level of use of authority, he could only comprehend it through battle. In that case, it would definitely be more effective than Noah's rigid fumbling alone. This was a deicides. In order to reach a further use of the authority of the 10 incarnations, Noah only needed to fight. Therefore, Noah needed an opponent of the same level. An opponent who could be ranked in the top 10 of this world, who belonged to the world's top powerhouses. Among the existences that Noah knew, only Syzax could meet such an opponent. Therefore, Noah could only challenge Syzax. I know that it will be difficult for you to make such a sudden request, but I don't want to do anything. Just tell Syzax that I can do it at any time. Noah sighed. If you can agree to my request, I'll be very happy. Seeing that Noah did not seem to be faking it, Riaz and the others looked at each other. At that moment, a frivolous voice echoed throughout the supernatural research department. That sounds interesting. Let me give you a hand. As those words were spoken, a figure appeared on the luxurious desk of the supernatural research department accompanied by the light of a teleportation circle. He sat on top of it and imprinted himself into everyone's eyes. Athasiel? Everyone was astonished. The one who had come was none other than Asashel. You want to challenge Syzax, don't you? Athasiel said to Noah with a standard malicious smile on his face. I can help you contact Syzax. Hearing that, Riaz put on a straight face. What do you want? Not only Riaz, but even the group of kin stared at Athasiel with extreme vigilance. The man in front of them was no ordinary fallen angel, but the leader of the fallen angels. Simply put, he was the leader of the bad guys. Who would not be on guard? Don't be so nervous. There's no harm in it anyway, is there? Athasiel himself was extremely nonchalant. You need to go to the underworld during summer vacation, right? By then, Syzax will probably have some free time, right? Then a fight shouldn't be a problem, right? Noah's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Riaz. Are you going back to the underworld during summer vacation? Usually, I will go back to the underworld during summer vacation. Riaz glared at Athasiel, but still answered truthfully. And this time, there's a gathering of the new generation of demons during summer vacation, including me and Kana. Several young superior pure-blooded demons who are about to debut into adulthood will be attending. So, I plan to take my servants to the underworld during summer vacation. Also, the signing of the peace treaty between the three major factions is almost done. Michael and I will also be going to the underworld. Athasiel spread his hands. So, when the time comes, I will be going with you. All of a sudden, Riaz and the other girls showed signs of reluctance. It seemed that these girls did not have any feelings of closeness to Athasiel. Summer vacation, huh? Noah murmured, and then the corner of his mouth curled up. I hope I can achieve the goal of training. Training. Riaz was a little incredulous. You challenged my brother just to train? It's not strange that you need to train, right? Athasiel interrupted. Why don't you let me arrange training for all of you during your time in the underworld? Why? Riaz and the others all objected. In response, Athasiel only smiled. Don't worry, I'll train all of you well. Everyone's face turned bitter. Chapter 657. In the following period of time, Noah did not continue to explore the authority aspect. Instead, he obediently waited for the arrival of the summer vacation. It was not that Noah suddenly became less diligent. Instead, after that, Noah also tried to use the state of 2 avatars at the same time. In the end, it almost put Noah in a sorry state. Originally, Noah's 10 avatars belonged to the authority level of cheating. Each avatar could almost be used as an individual authority. Whether it was practicality or practicality, including the power itself, it was no different from an ordinary authority. Under such circumstances, although Noah's 10 avatars could only be regarded as one authority, no matter how one looked at it, they could be regarded as 10 authorities. As such, when Noah used 2 avatars that were comparable to authority at the same time, the burden was so heavy that Noah found it hard to believe. First of all, because of the use of 2 avatars at the same time, the magic power in Noah's body was being consumed at an incredible rate. It even caused the already extremely large amount of magic power to boil, making Noah's magic power almost go berserk like when he was a child. That was because Noah did not have complete control of the power of 2 avatars at the same time. Secondly, using 2 avatars at the same time put a huge burden on Noah's body. Noah's whole body creaked, as if it was about to collapse. It also made Noah's head feel like it was about to explode. Heat and pain all rushed up in one breath. These phenomena were all due to the burden of using the power of 2 avatars at the same time. Therefore, even Noah did not dare to use them casually. He could only wait obediently for the summer vacation to come. As a godslayer, as long as there was a battle, there would be growth. Noah could only focus on the battle with Syzax, allowing his body to adapt to the use of 2 avatars as it grew. He also figured out the best way to use the 2 avatars during the battle, so that the massive power would not run amok in his body and cause an unimaginable burden. On the other hand, Asashel seemed to have mentioned Noah's request to Syzax, who agreed to it. According to Syzax, Noah, the Godslayer, played a very important role as a witness and deterrent for the 3 major forces to trust each other and conclude a peace treaty. In addition, during the meeting between the 3 forces, he had directly faced the attack on the 3 forces, helped them defeat the strong enemy, and captured the descendants of the 3 former demon kings, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus. Syzax felt that he had to agree to such a request. Hence, Noah's battle against Syzax during the summer break was basically set in stone. As long as the summer break came, Noah would be able to start training and improve himself to the next level. Therefore, Noah was now basically living the life of an ordinary teacher. He stayed in the infirmary and worked hard every day. From time to time, he would go to the supernatural research department to show his face. It was worth mentioning that Asashel had also become a teacher at the Cult King Academy and a consultant for the supernatural research department. Syzax's sister has a relative that I'm interested in. Plus you, the Godslayer, and the Red Dragon Emperor are also here. It would be a waste if I don't observe closely. That was what Asashel said himself. However, Noah felt that Asashel had another reason for doing so. I heard that one of my subordinates seemed to have wanted to make a move on the child named Aisha. Really, they kept causing trouble for me. I have no choice but to think of a way to make up for it. This was another way of saying by Asashel. Noah did not have any objections to this. However, it was said that under Asashel's request, Liaz and her family had to train in the underworld during the summer break, including Aisha. Boo-hoo. On the way home, Aisha said a little uneasily, "Will I really be okay? It's just training for a while. Don't worry." Noah patted Aisha's head. Besides, Aisha is not a combatant. She's a support type. Your training won't be too dangerous. But I'm also a pawn, Aisha said with tears in her eyes. Sister Liaz said that the role of a pawn is to charge into the enemy's main camp. Only then can you gain the right to be promoted and be a pawn. It was also said before that a pawn had the ability to upgrade to any pawn other than the king in the enemy's camp. When they obtained the permission of the king, they could obtain the ability of that pawn and change it at will. This included the queen. It was also because of this that, generally speaking, pawns were better at charging into enemy lines and fighting head-on. Very few pawns were focused on healing. For Aisha, this must be something that she was very concerned about, right? However, Noah had a different opinion. Who said that pawn can't focus on healing as a support? Members who focus on healing need the ability to protect themselves the most. As long as they can protect themselves, even if their teammates fall, they can still heal them and let them return to the battlefield. If they are defeated, it will be a real loss, Noah said. And pawns can be upgraded. As long as they can be upgraded to a rook, not to mention attack power, the enhanced defense will increase your survivability. If you are upgraded to a knight, you will also gain a speed bonus. If you are targeted by the enemy, you can immediately run away. If you are upgraded to a bishop, you will be able to increase your magic power and increase the effectiveness of your healing. Not to mention, if you are upgraded to a queen, you will gain all the special abilities. You have 4 pawns in your body. Those powers will definitely increase your strength. Noah patted Aisha's shoulder. So don't think too much. It's just a different direction of development. It's definitely not that you are not suitable to be a pawn, understand? Hearing Noah's words, Aisha suddenly became a lot more spirited. Understood, teacher. I will work hard. Noah nodded with satisfaction. At this time, Noah also noticed. Kitten, who was standing at the side, had been maintaining her silence. She lowered her head and walked silently. Kitten was indeed a synonym for silence. However, Kitten was usually not silent to the extent that she almost did not say a word. This made Noah feel a little strange. He could not help but ask, "What's wrong, Kitten?" However, Kitten did not seem to hear Noah's voice at all. She still lowered her head silently and continued to walk forward. Noah, who felt more and more that something was wrong, patted Kitten's shoulder. "Why aren't you saying anything, Kitten?" Kitten seemed to have been startled awake and came back to her senses. "What's wrong?" Noah frowned. Did Kitten not hear Noah's words all this time? "Kitty-chan." Aisha also said with a little worry. "Are you feeling unwell?" "No, it's not." Kitten shook her head but did not explain anything. She quickened her pace and walked forward. "Kitty-chan, wait for me." Aisha quickly chased after her. Seeing this, Noah fell into deep thought. Something was wrong with Kitten's appearance. Nighttime. After the lights went out, Aisha and Kitten were already asleep under the blanket. Speaking of which, in the beginning, Kitten moved in here to keep an eye on Noah. Later on, she continued to stay here to keep an eye on Aisha. Now it was basically certain that Noah would not harm Lyeth. Since Aisha had become Lyeth's dependent, she should not do anything. Kitten should have left after accomplishing her mission. However, since Aisha did not want to leave, Kitten stayed with her. Lying on the bed that covered the floor, just as Noah felt a little sleepy, a petite body crawled into Noah's arms. Noah was immediately awakened. The sleepiness in his head was gone. He lowered his head, looked at his arms and was stunned. Kitten. The one who crawled into Noah's bed was Kitten. At this moment, Kitten was looking at Noah with teary eyes and said something that made Noah's brain go blank. "Teacher, please take me." Chapter 658. Teacher, please possess me. In the dead of the night, a lowly student who looked to be only 13 or 14 years old, but was as cute as a doll, burrowed into his arms. She even looked at him with moist eyes and said something that made him think of Pian Pian. What kind of reaction should he have? Noah didn't know how others would react. As for Noah himself, he had already widened his eyes to the maximum. He looked at the kitten in his arms with astonishment in his eyes. It was not as if Noah had not experienced a similar scene before. Almost every day, Genova would bring Irina to secretly find an opportunity to kidnap Noah to a place where there was no one. Sometimes they would even bring Isha, which almost made Noah collapse. So now, Noah was almost not surprised by such things. But that was only limited to Genova, Irina and Isha. Now, the one who crawled into Noah's arms and said something like that to Noah was none other than the kitten. The kitten who always had a disgusted attitude towards sex, and when Noah took advantage of Noah, the kitten would not hesitate to throw an iron fist at him. How could Noah not be surprised when the kitten suddenly crawled into Noah's arms like that? But the kitten didn't seem to be joking. Meow. Just like a real cat, the kitten in pajamas had an intoxicating blush on her cheeks that could be clearly seen even in the night, and she let out a cute meow. She gave off a charming feeling. Then the kitten approached Noah in a daze. She sat up from Noah's arms and began to unbutton her pajamas. She didn't give Noah any time to react. When the kitten unbuttoned her pajamas, she threw it away. When he threw it away, an extremely petite, yet abnormally soft and fair body entered Noah's eyes. Only then did Noah realize that the kitten was not only not wearing any underwear, but her lower body was also completely naked. Even if it was said that once the kitten undid the pajamas on the upper half of her body, her entire delicate body would be completely naked. In this state, the kitten's breathing was rapid and her face was flushed. She bent down and hugged Noah tightly. The next moment, a soft body that was completely soaked in sweat pressed against Noah's body. Immediately, the kitten began to take off Noah's clothes. Wait. Kitten. Seeing that the kitten didn't seem to be joking, Noah quickly grabbed the kitten's hand. What's wrong with you? You've been acting weird since today. Teacher. The kitten raised her head, her beautiful big eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I can't control myself. Saying this, the kitten directly grabbed Noah's hand and pressed it on her small breasts. Although it was very small, but that soft touch did pass through the palm to Noah's nerves. Meow. The kitten made a sweet sound that was very comfortable. Noah's hand was almost frozen on the kitten's body, and even his expression was completely frozen. What happened? What exactly happened? What the hell was this situation? What happened to the kitten? When Noah was puzzled by this, the kitten had already bent down again. With an extremely seductive expression, she actually licked Noah's neck. Oh, teacher's taste. Clearly feeling the unique touch of the kitten's tongue, Noah's whole body quivered. You know, even Mira and Lisanna didn't lick Noah's body like this. Now a loli was tempting Noah like this. How could Noah bear it? Moreover, the kitten's tongue that was licking Noah's neck was constantly moving. Moving to Noah's cheek, then moving to the tip of his nose, and finally, even moving in the direction of Noah's mouth, and constantly licking the corner of Noah's mouth. Feeling that something was wrong, Noah immediately broke away from the kitten's hand, put his hand on the kitten's extremely slender shoulder, and pushed the kitten away. Kitten, what's wrong with you? Oh, the kitten just looked at Noah with an intoxicated expression and eyes. She didn't say anything, and continued to stick out her small tongue, as if absent-mindedly licking Noah's arm that was on her shoulder. Finally, Noah found that something was wrong with the kitten. First of all, the kitten's body was very hot, very hot. Her whole body was emitting a surprising amount of heat, making her face that red. Secondly, there was a trace of shadow in the kitten's eyes. Her eyes that were full of water kept shaking, but there was no focus at all. That was simply a sign that she had lost her mind. This behavior directly calmed Noah down. Then, a scene that surprised Noah appeared in front of Noah's eyes. Meow. Only to see in the kitten's coquettish voice, a pair of white cat ears appeared from the kitten's head, constantly twitching. Immediately, on the kitten's petite buttocks, a small white tail suddenly stretched out and wrapped around one of Noah's arms, wriggling nonstop, giving Noah a ticklish feeling. At the same time, Noah's extraordinary sensing ability also felt an abnormal fluctuation of power from the kitten's body in this posture. That was neither magic nor light power. A completely new kind of power that Noah had never encountered before. That power was like the aura flowing in nature. It was very pure and pure. The kitten was actually hiding such power? Moreover, what's with this posture? Just as Noah was surprised, the kitten's hand reached towards his lower body. This time, Noah finally could not stay calm. Sorry, kitten, you should sleep first. Noah suddenly reached out a hand and pressed it behind the kitten's neck. A faint trace of magic hit it, causing the kitten's pupils to dilate, her head to tilt, and she fell directly into Noah's arms, unable to get up again. Noah then heaved a huge sigh of relief. He got up, and after feeling the temperature of the kitten in his arms gradually drop, he murmured, "Why did the kitten suddenly undergo such a change?" Moreover, it was very obvious that the kitten did not do it by herself, but because she had lost her mind. At that moment, Noah grabbed the blanket and covered the naked body of the kitten lying in his arms. Then he closed his eyes. Drager, wake up, I have something to ask you. Usually Bio and Drager, who were purely residing in Noah's soul with their consciousness, were unable to stay awake. They could only wake up when Noah called or under special circumstances. Now, under Noah's call, Draeger's consciousness, which was residing in Noah's soul, began to stir, and gradually began to wake up. Waking me up without using the Red Dragon Emperor's boosted gear. What a rare situation. Don't joke with me. Noah went straight to the point. What's with the kitten's state? Kitten? Is that the child in your arms? Draeger seemed to have noticed the kitten's cat ears and tail, and asked in surprise. It's actually a Nicomata, that's really rare. Nicomata? Noah frowned. Are you referring to the cat demon? That's right, it's a cat demon, also known as a Nicomata in this country. Draeger said. Moreover, this Nicomata's body also has the aura of an immortal technique. She's probably the strongest of the Nicomata race, a superior monster that can use both demonic and immortal techniques. The descendants of the Nicomata race are simply the rarest of the rarest of the rare races. Hearing Draeger's words, Noah immediately understood. The kitten was probably not a human that reincarnated into a demon, but a monster that reincarnated into a demon. That pure energy should be the immortal technique that Draeger mentioned. In other words, the kitten had been hiding her identity. Could this be the kitten's unbearable past? But why did the kitten lose her mind? This might be caused by you. Draeger voiced his guess. The Nicomata are superior monsters that can use immortal techniques, and are very sensitive to nature and the aura of the human body. Recently, you've been exploring the use of a higher level of power, and the aura in your body has increased too much. Moreover, this Nicomata has been hanging around you all day, and deliberately suppressing her power. After being stimulated by you, the hidden power was finally activated, causing this Nicomata to lose her mind, right? In other words, this was indeed caused by Noah. But why would the kitten deliberately hide such power? Looks like it's time to talk to Leah. Chapter 659. The next day, at the Supernatural Research Department, Leah's Junai, Isha, Genova, Irina, Label, Kiba Yudo, and the others were all speechless as they watched the scene on the sofa. Noah was sitting there with a bitter expression on his face. He felt very uncomfortable under the gaze of Leah's and the others, but there was nothing he could do. There was no other reason. At this time, there was a petite and lovely person in Noah's arms. Meow. With a cute meow, the kitten with a pair of white cat ears was like a kitten that kept acting coquettishly towards Noah. Not only did it hug Noah's neck tightly, but it also wrapped its tail around Noah's arm, and used its little tongue to lick Noah's neck and cheeks. If it was really a cat, then these actions should all be the cat's way of expressing its closeness to Noah. But if it was an extremely cute kitten, then no matter how one looked at it, it would look like a show of affection to others. If Noah had not been avoiding it, the kitten would have licked Noah's lips without hesitation and stuck its tongue into Noah's mouth to entangle with Noah. Or rather, it was already good enough that it did not take off its clothes like last night, and try to push Noah down. Sigh. Leah's rubbed her temples and looked at Isha. What's going on? I don't know. Isha glanced at the kitten that kept licking Noah's neck and cheeks. Her pretty face was already puffed up as if she was quite envious. It became like this after waking up this morning. Then what's with the cat ears and tail? She squatted beside Noah and stared at the kitten's tail that was wrapped around Noah's arm. Then she asked in amazement, "That's right. It doesn't look fake." Come to think of it, you guys still don't know about this. Junai did not wear his usual smile, which was rare. Instead, he looked at the kitten with a complicated look in his eyes. The kitten was not human before it was reincarnated as a demon. It was a cat demon of the cat demon race. Cat demon? Genova seemed to have remembered something. If I remember correctly, it's a rather high and rare race among the demons, right? It's a very high and rare race among the cat demon race that can use both immortal and magical arts at the same time. Label seemed to know something about this. She kept glancing at the kitten's direction, and seeing how close the kitten was acting to Noah. Label was a little angry. But what's going on? Why is the kitten clinging on to teacher Noah? All of a sudden, everyone's gazes were once again gathered's face and the kitten's. Under such circumstances, even Noah was a little annoyed. While dodging the kitten's incessant licking tongue, He yelled at Leah's direction. Can't you think of something, Liesel? You say that, but I don't know what's going on. Liesel frowned and came to the side of the sofa. She touched the kitten's forehead, then its belly, and her frown deepened. Its body temperature is very high, and its behavior is very abnormal. The kitten must have lost its mind. Why is it like this? It seems to be because of my influence. Noah recalled Drake's guess. According to Drake, the kitten is a rare cat demon that can use immortal spells. It's very sensitive to chi. Recently, I've been exploring new ways to use my power, which caused the chi in my body to increase greatly. Moreover, the kitten has been hiding its immortal spell power, so it was stimulated by my greatly increased chi, which caused the kitten to lose its mind. Is that so? Liesel was relieved. It's probably because the kitten lost its mind that Nicomeda's estrus period was stimulated, and it was stimulated by your chi. That's why the kitten uncontrollably clinged on to you, right? Nicomeda's estrus period. Noah muttered, but before he could think about it, the kitten came up and licked Noah's lips, causing Noah's face to crumble. By the way, why is the kitten hiding its identity and power? Aside from Aisha, Genova, and Irina, who were former believers of the church, Liesel, Junai, and Kiba Yuto all lowered their heads and fell into silence. Even Label seemed to have thought of something. Could it be? Seeing that, Noah turned his gaze to Label. Label, do you know what's going on? Label did not expect Noah to ask her directly. She panicked a little at Noah's question, and then deliberately coughed and pretended to be calm. I've only heard about it. Even if you ask me, I can't tell you too much. Although she said that, Label also began to explain. I once heard that a few years ago, a superior demon found a pair of homeless cat demon sisters whose parents had died. They had no one to call home and no one to rely on. He took a fancy to the cat demon sisters' potential and made the cat demon sister his family. Label's expression suddenly became serious. However, the cat demon sister's potential was above that superior demon's estimation. After being reincarnated as a demon, she grew very quickly and obtained extraordinary power, surpassing her master in a short time. Moreover, she was devoured by an excessively powerful force and turned into an evil person who only cared about blood and battle. Noah's expression darkened at that. Backlash of power? In other words, the cat demon sister went berserk because of an excessively powerful force? This made Noah involuntarily recall his childhood. The cat demon sister, whose power increased endlessly, killed her master in the end and became a lost demon. Moreover, she was one of the most dangerous lost demons. She was able to annihilate all the demon troops that were pursuing her. Even now, no one has been able to bring her to justice. Label secretly glanced at Kitten. In the end, the superiors decided not to pursue the cat demon sister for the time being to avoid unnecessary sacrifices. Instead, they turned to the cat demon sister and held her accountable. It said that they were worried that the cat demon sister would lose control in the future, so they planned to execute the cat demon sister. With that, Label closed her mouth and did not say anything else. This was because Lyeth sighed. It was Big Brother who saved her, and convinced all the superior demons to hand her over to me to manage. She became my dependent. At this point, there was no need for any more explanation. Needless to say, the cat demon sister must be Kitten, right? Ever since she became my family, I've never seen Kitten use any sorcery or immortal arts. She rarely even uses her mana, and only uses the rook attribute to attack and defend in battle. Lyeth stroked Kitten's head affectionately. Kitten was worried that she would end up like her sister if she used that power. She would be consumed by the power, lose her mind, and become an evil person who kills without batting an eyelid. That's why she's been hiding her identity and power. Everyone present fell silent. Junai, Label, and Kiba Yuto should more or less know about Kitten's situation, right? As for Aisha, Genova, Irina, and the others, they did not expect Kitten to have such a past. Even Noah's gaze became complicated when he saw Kitten with red cheeks and moist eyes. She kept coming up to him and licking his face and neck like a spoiled child. According to their previous conversations, Noah knew that Kitten had a past that he did not want to recall. However, Noah did not expect that Kitten's past was somewhat similar to his own. She was worried that her power would go berserk, so she deliberately hid her power. It was almost the same as how Noah trained his temperament and magic control to not go berserk when he was young. The difference was that Noah chose to take the initiative to train himself due to his exceedingly powerful power, while the kitten sealed that power away as if it was escaping from it. One intended to treat the root of the problem. The other intended to treat the symptoms. That was the difference. Of course, the current problem was still to solve Kitten's mental disorder. There's no other way. We have to go to the underworld ahead of time. In the end, Lilith made the decision. If we go to the main family, we should be able to find more information about the Nicomeda clan. Noah could only nod. Chapter 660. There was about a week left before Colt King Academy's summer break. With Noah and Leah in the lead, the entire paranormal research department had applied for leave and started their summer break a week earlier. They followed Leah to the station closest to Colt King Academy. Station? Noah asked Leah as he hugged the kitten that was clinging to him tightly, despite the strange looks from the people around him. Why are we at the station? Do you even need to ask? Leah answered matter-of-factly. To the underworld, of course. Underworld? Could it be that taking the train at the station will bring us to the underworld? Then this underworld is really down to earth. Noah could not find the words to complain, but he could not tell what was going on either. All he could do was hug the kitten obediently and follow Leah. Meow. The kitten's face was still as red as ever, and its eyes were filled with tears. Its ears and tail were wagging happily, but it did not lick Noah's face or neck. Instead, it kept rubbing itself against Noah's chest as if it found it comfortable. The people at the station seemed to have thought of the kitten as a naughty child, and did not really think that the kitten's ears and tail were real. Still, they were struck by the kitten's cuteness. Noah could even hear many of the middle-aged men panting uncontrollably, and the corner of his eye twitched. Under such circumstances, Leah led Noah and the rest to the elevator in the station. Well then, Sensei, the kitten, Aisha and Label, follow me. The rest of you, Genova and Irina, follow Junai and Yudo. Yes, sir. Junai, Genova, Irina and Kiba Yudo nodded in response. Then Noah carried the kitten and entered the elevator with Aisha and Label. The next moment, the elevator doors closed. In the elevator, there were only 1 and 2 displayed on the screen. Leah took out something that looked like a card from her uniform's pocket and placed it in front of the elevator's electronic panel. Beep. A sound effect, as if a scan had been verified, began to play. Immediately after that, the elevator moved, and it actually moved downwards. Below? Noah looked at Lias in confusion. Is there another floor below the station? Not only Noah, but even Isha could not hide her surprise and nervousness. She tightly tugged at Noah's sleeve with tears in her eyes. It feels like I'm going to hell. So scary. You may say that, but the underworld is above hell in the first place. Leah's laughed bitterly. The hell that contains the souls of the sinners of this world is below the underworld. Therefore, going to the underworld is equivalent to going to hell. Ah. Aisha was even more scared now. Undoubtedly, he's going to the underworld before he dies. Will he not be able to come back? Looking at Isha's timid appearance and innocent words, everyone could only smile helplessly. There's a secret floor under this station, a place that only demons know about. On the side, Label acted as a commentator. That's a route used exclusively by demons. Most humans would never be able to enter it in their entire lives. Places like this are not only hidden in this station, but also in this town and other places in the human world. At that, Label suddenly said to Noah with a fake smile. By the way, teacher, you must be tired from carrying the kitten like this. Why don't you put it down? Label's sudden change in topic almost made Noah unable to react. When he did, he sighed. I want to as well, but do you think it's possible? Meow. The kitten seemed to be pandering to Noah's words. It hugged Noah tightly like a spoiled child, and kept rubbing against Noah's chest with a satisfied look on its face. Ugh. Isha and Label immediately teared up at the same time. I'm so envious. While they were chatting, the elevator finally stopped and the door gently opened. What appeared in front of Noah's group was an extremely vast space. It was like a huge hole in the ground. Its structure was very similar to a platform in a train station, but the furnishings were somewhat different from a human train station. There was also a space for a track. With that, Noah finally confirmed it. If they wanted to go to the underworld, they would need to take a car and not just take an elevator. After a while, Junai and Kibayuro brought Genova and Irina down. This is the underworld. It doesn't feel like it. It seemed that even Genova and Irina thought that they could take the elevator directly to the underworld. Once they came out of the elevator and saw the vast space in front of them, they were immediately confused. Ignoring Genova and Irina's confusion, Lyeth clapped her hands. All right, since we're all here, let's get on the train and depart for the underworld. I've already notified them. The Gimli family's private train should be here soon. As soon as this sentence fell, in front of the tracks, a train with sharp angles and engraved with patterns representing demons suddenly appeared in a burst of spatial fluctuations. It directly drove out of space and stopped on the tracks. So, we need to take a train to the underworld? Beep. The train's whistle echoed in the space. Sitting in the middle of the train, Noah, who was hugging the kitten, looked out through the window and saw a space that swayed like water waves. Clearly, this train was passing through the barrier between the human world and the demon world, heading toward the underworld. Since she was the owner of this train, Lyeth went to the carriage at the front of the train. With Noah in the lead, the Gimli family members sat in the middle of the carriage. A train to the underworld. How should I put it? It feels like a horror story. Aisha, Genova, and Irina were gathered together. They leaned against the car window with great interest, looking at the scenery outside and chatting happily. Speaking of which, why do we need to take a train to enter the underworld? Noah turned his head and looked at Junai and Label, who were also talking. Isn't there a magic circle that can transfer to other spaces? Can't we just use the magic circle to enter the underworld directly? Generally speaking, you can do that, Junai explained. However, people like Teacher who enter the underworld for the first time have to go through an official channel to enter the underworld. Otherwise, it will be treated as a legal entry. Minister Lyeth should be handling the official entry procedures for Teacher right now, right? Entry? Noah was speechless. So, entering the underworld also requires entry procedures? How should I put it? Is that the underworld that everyone fears? Or is it some foreign country that provides travel for others? It feels like there's something wrong with all kinds of things. That. Label began to fidget for no reason. Her pretty face was also slightly red. She looked at Noah and mustered up her courage. Teacher, if you have time, you can also go to Phoenix's house. Phoenix's house. Noah found it strange. Why go to Phoenix's house? Nothing. Label lowered her head, and her voice became inaudible. It's just that my family wants to see you. Label's voice was very soft, but Noah still heard it. At that moment, Noah could only laugh dryly. An hour later, looking up at the sky that was as clear as a lake, and then at the huge building that resembled a castle, Noah, who was once served like a king by the people of the magic world, was speechless. This is the Gimli family's house. Lyeth said proudly to Aisha, Genova, Irina, and Label. From today onwards, this is also your home. After all of you are my family and Label is no exception. Apart from Phoenix's house, please treat this place as your home as well. Yes, Lady Leah, Label replied obediently. Aisha, Genova, and Irina, on the other hand, were so stunned by the huge building that they had yet to react, and did not know how to reply. Anyway, come with me to meet my family first. Leah shook her head with a smile, and then looked at Noah. Teacher, you should take the kitten to rest first, and have Gulifia take you to my brother later. He should know how to solve the kitten's problem. Sazax. Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. Is he free now? I don't know if he's free. Leah only then remembered the duel between Noah and Sazax, and her expression became more or less serious. But my brother should meet you. Noah nodded, and the corner of his mouth slowly curled up. This is getting more and more exciting, says Axe. Chapter 661. In a room as spacious as the hall of a mansion, Noah let the kitten lie down on a bed that was large enough for 5 people to sleep on. Meow. At this time, the kitten seemed to be really tired. She closed her eyes and with a sweet voice that made people want to hug her tightly, she curled her body and fell into a deep sleep. Looking at the kitten's cute and coquettish behavior that would never be displayed by the taciturn kitten, Noah was speechless for a long time. To be honest, seeing the kitten like this, Noah wondered if he should let the kitten return to her original state. If he let the kitten return to her original state, and found out that she had fallen into such a strange state, because she deliberately hid a power that she didn't want, the kitten would definitely be very sad, right? Moreover, if she returned to her original state, it would mean that the kitten would remember her unbearable past, and return to her taciturn self. Compared to that, Noah felt that the current mentally unstable kitten that was as unrestrained and innocent as a normal kitten was more suitable for the kitten. However, this thought should not have existed. Even if there was an unforgettable sad past, it was also proof that he had once existed. If he didn't bear it, it would mean that he was escaping. Moreover, no one knew better than Noah what kind of life would be like without a past. The feeling of not knowing where he came from, not knowing what kind of existence he was, and not even knowing if he should appear in this world, if possible, Noah didn't want to experience it a second time. Presumably, the kitten was the same, right? Therefore, forgetting was definitely not a good idea. Only by facing the problem could he solve the problem. Rubbing the kitten's small head, Noah said as if he was talking to himself. In this world, there has never been a wrong power, only wrong people. As long as you use the power well, then even the power of a curse can become right. Don't reject yourself. Not sure if the kitten heard Noah's words, but the pair of ears of the sleeping kitten moved slightly, and then there was no other movement. Seeing this, Noah only rubbed the kitten's head lovingly, then stood up and walked out of the door. Lord Noah. Outside the door, Eulethia, dressed as a maid, bowed to Noah as if she had been waiting for a long time. Lord Syzax is waiting for your arrival. Syzax? Noah closed the door and looked at Eulethia. Is Syzax back? Yes. Eulethia turned to face Noah. This way, please. With that said, Eulethia walked in front and led the way for Noah. If someone who didn't know better saw this scene, who would have thought that this maid named Eulethia was a true Demon King level character? To outsiders, Eulethia claimed to be Syzax's maid. However, those in the know knew that Eulethia was Syzax's indispensable assistant. Eulethia was none other than Syzax's queen. She was known as the silver-haired Annihilation Queen, and was known as the strongest demon king in the entire underworld. Without a doubt, Eulethia was a demon king. That was why Noah could sense an aura that was only below that of a god slayer when they first met. Under Eulethia's lead, Noah came to a hall that was so luxurious that it looked like an audience with a king. He saw Syzax, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. And besides Syzax, Asashel was also there. You guys are too much. Asashel complained to Noah as soon as he arrived. I already said that I was planning to come to the underworld, but you guys left me behind and came here alone. We specifically asked for leave. I'm sure you know the reason. Noah raised an eyebrow. By the way, why are you here too? Since all the people I need to observe are gone, what's the point of me staying in that academy? Asashel said bluntly. I had no choice but to come here directly. Compared to Asashel's words that were no different from a ruffian's, Syzax was like a big brother next door. He didn't have the majesty of a demon king at all, as he greeted Noah with a casual smile. I heard that you came back with Leah's, so I rushed over immediately. Where's Leah's? I'll bring the family members to visit your parents first. Noah cut to the chase. Let's not talk about that for now. You already know about the kitten's problem. How should we solve it? It was only then that Syzax and Asashel turned serious and looked at each other. That catnip must have lost his mind because the powerful key in your body stimulated his hidden power, right? Asashel said. So Syzax and I both feel that it's because she was stimulated by your aura, causing the aura in her body to become chaotic. That's why she ended up like this. Immortal arts were different from magic or magic. Magic was the power to create supernatural phenomena through controlling techniques. Immortal arts, on the other hand, were mainly manifested in the aspect of ki. The so-called ki referred to the source of power in life, and some people in Japan also called it chakra. Compared to magic power and light power, ki had no direct destructive power at all. It was similar to Noah's magic power. It was a kind of life force that everything had. Immortal arts were actually just controlling this kind of ki. Since ki existed in everything, those who knew how to use immortal arts were good at judging the flow of ki and could detect the location of each individual. They could also control the flow of ki in their body to strengthen the inside and outside of the body, or interfere with the ki in nature, causing trees to bloom or wither. Therefore, immortal arts were spells that manipulated the flow of life. Disrupting and blocking the opponent's ki could cause harm to life. Therefore, once the ki in a person's body was in disorder, it would cause all kinds of physical symptoms. If the ki in Kitten's body was in disorder, it would not be strange for her mind to suddenly go haywire. The most important thing is that Kitten has been suppressing her power, which led to her being stimulated by the powerful external ki. If she did not deliberately suppress her power, then this would not have happened. Sazax looked directly at Noah. So if you want Kitten to recover, you either have to let someone who knows how to use immortal arts adjust the flow of ki for her, or you can only let Kitten give up suppressing her power, and let the suppressed and disordered ki flow smoothly on its own. Then everything will be fine. Noah frowned. Then, can you find someone who knows how to use immortal arts? Hearing this, both Sazax and Athasher shook their heads. It's not difficult to find someone who knows how to use immortal arts. Athasher said directly. However, rather than letting outsiders solve this problem, I think it's better to let Kitten solve her own problem. In fact, Noah thought so too. The question was whether Kitten could truly accept her identity and power, and face up to her past. I think even in this state, the Kitten's own consciousness should still be awake. That was Sazix's conclusion. If you talk to her, she will be able to hear you. Noah muttered to himself. One was a way to treat the symptoms. The other was a way to treat the root of the problem. Then there was no need to consider which one to choose. I'll try. Noah could only give this answer, and immediately looked at Sazax. Then when should our duel begin? I wouldn't dare to be unprepared if I were to fight you. The most powerful Red Dragon Emperor in history. Sazax laughed bitterly. Then, as if he had thought of something, he suddenly smiled. Actually, what you want is not a duel with me, but a battle where you can exert your full strength, right? Noah nodded. Then, give me some time to prepare. Sazax smiled meaningfully. When the time comes, I'll make sure you're satisfied. Let's set the time for 5 days later. Athasher said. I'm also going to arrange about a month of special training for Leah's family. Your battle will begin then as well. Noah nodded heavily, his heart beginning to look forward to it. Chapter 662. After chatting with Sazax and Asashel, Noah returned to the Kitten's room. To Noah's surprise, when he arrived at the Kitten's room, there was another person standing at the edge of the bed, staring at the Kitten with a dazed expression. Himejima. The person standing at the edge of the bed and looking at the Kitten was Himejima Junai. Hearing Noah's voice, Junai came back to his senses. His face returned to his usual gentle smile as he looked at Noah. Era, I thought I went to meet the parents. Meet the parents? Noah was stunned. What parents? Don't tell me you've forgotten? Junai tilted his head and reminded him. In terms of status, you're still the fiancé of Minister Lias. After being reminded by Junai, Noah remembered that there was such a matter, and he immediately laughed bitterly. What about you? Didn't you go with Lias to meet her parents? I've seen the minister's parents many times. This time, the minister wants to introduce a new family member to his parents. So, I asked for permission to come here to take care of the Kitten. Junai chuckled. The minister's parents are unexpectedly very fond of the minister. Once they meet, they probably won't be able to leave before night falls. If you want to meet the parents, you can do it now. Under Junai's teasing, Noah could only roll his eyes. He came to the edge of the bed, sat down, and gently smoothed the hair on the sleeping kitten's forehead as he said to Junai. Sazak said that the kitten can hear us now. Do you have anything to say to the kitten? Anything to say? The smile on Junai's face slowly disappeared and was replaced by a complicated expression. Should I say a lot? Is it a lot? Noah looked at Junai. But I don't think you're talking to the kitten much. Because the kitten can understand what I want to say even if I don't say it. Junai's eyes became extremely complicated. After all, we are the same kind of people. We all hate the blood and power in our bodies. You hate your own blood and strength. Noah's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't say anything. However, Noah couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, everyone has an unbearable past? That's right. Junai gave a rare bitter smile. Unfortunately, I can't give it up. So we can only choose to face it head-on, Noah said meaningfully. Immersing yourself in the sorrow of the past will only lead to stagnation. Teacher, this is how you got here, right? Junai smiled. However, that smile seemed forced no matter how one looked at it. As expected of the God-Slayer and the Red Dragon Emperor. Compared to us, teacher is really too strong. No, you're wrong. I'm not strong at all. Noah directly denied it. When you realize that you have something that you can only do now, and a group of friends who are constantly supporting you and silently encouraging you, you will know that you don't need a strong will to face the past. You only need courage. With that, Noah stood up. Talk to the kitten more. It'll be good for her recovery. With that, Noah walked out of the kitten's room, leaving Junai alone. Junai still lowered his head with a complicated expression. No one knew what he was thinking. In the next 5 days, whenever he had time, Noah would talk to the kitten in her room. Not only Noah, but the girls, including Lias, who knew about the kitten's situation, would find time to come to the kitten's room and talk to her about all kinds of things. No one knew if it was because all her previous energy had been used up, but the kitten had not been able to wake up in the past 5 days. She had been in a deep sleep. Asashel felt that the kitten was consciously refusing to wake up. She was immersed in confusion about her own power. So if he wanted the kitten to wake up, it would probably be up to the kitten to face him and accept his power. At that time, the kitten's mental problems would also be solved, right? During this period, Noah also met with Lias's parents a few times. It was mainly about Lias's engagement. It had to be said that Lias's parents really wanted to marry Lias off. During this period of time, they had been indirectly interrogating Noah, asking him when he was going to marry Lias, and when she would give birth to a grandchild. Noah was quite speechless when he heard that. In addition, Noah could not directly say something like, I'm just playing with your daughter. It's not real, and I won't marry her. In the end, Noah could only brush them off. Under such circumstances, 5 days passed by. On this day, with Noah and Lias in the lead, a group of Jimenez's family members gathered in the courtyard in front of the Jimenez's house. Everyone was wearing sportswear, even Noah. Standing in front of everyone was Asashel. At this moment, Asashel was holding a teaching material in his hand as he bluntly said this. I'll say this first. The training I'm going to arrange for you is mainly designed for the future. Some people will show results immediately, and some people will have to continue for a long time to see results. As long as you don't go in the wrong direction, you'll be able to grow very well. Then, first of all, Lias. Asashel was the first to call Lias. From the beginning, you're a demon of the highest standards in terms of talent, physical strength, and magic power. Even if you maintain the status quo and continue to develop, your abilities will gradually grow. When you really reach adulthood, you should have the opportunity to become a demon of the highest level. So, I'm only arranging some basic training for you. That's enough. Overall, all your abilities are quite good. Because of this, you only need to do some basic exercises to improve your strength. After saying that, Asashel turned a page of the teaching material in his hand. Next is Junai. Yes, Junai, who was called by Asashel, did not seem very happy. It felt like Junai did not like Asashel very much. He had more or less shown this tendency in the past. And Asashal's next sentence made Junai's unhappy face turn into a real gloomy one. You have to accept the blood flowing in your body. His words made Junai squint his eyes and stare at Asashal's. I don't need to accept that kind of thing. Is that so? But that's your own body, isn't it? Denial will only make you weaker, right? Asashal did not even look at Junai and said bluntly, You've seen what kitten is like. No matter how sad or painful it is, you have to accept everything about yourself. You and kitten's weakness is yourselves. If you don't overcome this weakness, you'll only become a burden in future battles. Junai did not respond. Instead, he lowered his head with an uncertain expression on his face. In this regard, Asashal continued to speak as if he did not realize it. Next is Sawmill. Yes. Kiba immediately answered, looking very serious. You are the same as Leah. You can become stronger by continuing basic training. Your swordsmanship is already outstanding, and your speed is even better. The only thing you lack is defense. Asashal handed a copy of the teaching materials in his hand to Kiba. This is the way to use the sword-type sacred gear that I've researched. If you follow this direction, you might be able to reach the level of balance breaker. After that, I'll teach you one-on-one. Before that, you just need to go through the basic training. As expected of an expert in the study of sacred gear, he was very skilled in this aspect. Next, Genova. For the first time, Asashal raised his eyes and glanced at Genova. You've already undergone sufficient training in the church. Now you don't need me to arrange any messy training for you. So instead of doing pointless training, I think it's better for you to familiarize yourself with the trump card in your hand. Genova fell into deep thought after hearing Asashal's words. Then it's Aisha and Irina. Asashal closed the teaching materials in his hand. When the two of you were reincarnated, each of you used 4 pawns. As demons, the strengthening you received when you were reincarnated should be much higher than that of ordinary demons. But now the power that the pawns give you has not reached its limit. You who have just been reincarnated as demons are unable to bear the power of 4 pawns. The value of the pawns is even higher than that of a knight and a bishop, and it is close to the power of a rook. What you need to do is to release this power, and I will assist you. So that's how it is. We still have that kind of power in our bodies. Both Isha and Elena were more or less excited by this news. As for Label, Asashal scratched his head. Instead of letting me arrange training for you, why don't you go home to Phoenix and let your family teach you how to use the power of the Phoenix? Understood. Label nodded heavily. You can each carry out your own plans. Asashal finally looked at Noah. Noah, come with me. Your opponent is already waiting for you. Hearing this, Noah laughed. It was a laugh that made his blood boil. Chapter 663. With Leah's in the lead, all the Jemengli family members who were arranged by Athashel for special training went to their respective training places and left Noah's side. Although Leah's and her family members all looked unusually worried when they left, and were obviously very concerned about the duel between Noah and Sazax, Athashel still chased everyone away. It's called a duel, but it's just for training and actual combat with prepared opponents. Instead of worrying about this, it's better to worry about your growth in a month's time. If you don't work hard, the next time you meet Noah will be so strong that you won't even be able to touch him. After hearing Asashal's words, Riyaz and the others had no choice but to leave obediently and prepare for their training despite their reluctance. On the other hand, Noah was led by Athashel to a mountain very far away from the Jemengli family. Originally, Asashal could have directly used the teleportation magic circle to come over, but because Noah, as the Godslayer, had a foul curse resistance that would eliminate all beneficial or unbeneficial mystical powers, he couldn't use the teleportation magic circle at all. The reason why Noah could use the teleportation magic circle to jump to the duel ground during his last duel with Rissel was that the magic circle's nature was different. Unlike ordinary teleportation magic circles to other dimensions and spaces only opened a passage through the dimensional barrier for people to pass through. It functioned like a door. As long as Noah did not touch the door itself when he passed through the door, He could reach other dimensions and spaces. However, teleportation magic circles used in the same dimension and space were not the same. It was completely a function of the spell. Therefore, with Noah's physique, it was not a problem to use a teleportation magic circle to jump to other dimensions and spaces, but it was not possible to use a teleportation magic circle in the same dimension and space. With no other choice, Athashel could only bring Noah to the destination personally. Whoosh! The strong mountain wind carried a thick cloud of sand and dust, blowing at the top of the towering mountain peak. Under Athashel's lead, Noah, who came to the mountain, saw two people. One was Sazax, who did not look like a big brother next door like before. He was dressed in grand and gorgeous clothes, fully displaying the majesty of a demon king in front of Noah for the first time. The other was a man who was dressed as grand as Sazax, but looked a little coquettish. Seeing the coquettish man, Noah's gaze suddenly froze. For no other reason. It was because the man's aura was not weaker than Sazax. In other words, he was also a top powerhouse who had the ability to rank in the top 10 in this world. In the demon world, there were actually two powerhouses who could rank in the top 10 of this world. Let me introduce them to you. Beside him, Asashel said to Noah. The one standing beside Sazax is the man who developed the evil piece and brought hope to the reproduction of demons. He's one of the 4 demon kings Achuka Beelzebub. The coquettish demon king named Aquika smiled at Noah with great interest. I'm Aquika. Hello. The man who has the titles of God Slayer and Red Dragon Emperor. Demon King Beelzebub, I've heard a lot about you. Noah nodded. Then his gaze swept back and forth between Sazax and Aquika, who were standing side by side. Can you explain what the current situation is? Why was the other demon king here? Moreover, a demon king whose aura was not weaker than Sazax appeared here? To be honest, Noah was both surprised and puzzled. However, this time, Athashel did not explain to Noah. Instead, he quietly retreated, leaving the field to Noah, Sazax, and Aquika. Your Excellency Noah, as the God Slayer and Red Dragon Emperor, your strength is undoubtedly above the gods and demon kings, but you issued a challenge to me. I'm sure you've noticed, right? Sazax looked straight at Noah, his expression unprecedentedly calm. My strength is not what a demon king should have. Hearing this, Noah did not beat around the bush and nodded directly. At first, I thought all demon kings were as strong as you, but after coming into contact with all kinds of existences, I realized that ordinary gods and demon kings can't reach your strength at all. Your strength is probably far above the old 4 demon kings, right? You really did find it. No wonder you're the combination of the never-before-seen Godslayer and the strongest Red Dragon Emperor. Sazax smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his smile. Those who know of my existence, those who know of our existence call us surpassers. Us. Noah's gaze turned to Aquika, who was standing next to Sazax. That's right. Like Sazax, I'm one of the 2 surpassers in the current demonic forces. Aquika shrugged. And just like the literal expression, Sazax and I, who have this title, are existences that surpass all demons. Existences that surpass all demons? In other words, the 2 men in front of him were the strongest demons? No, that's not it. As if he saw through Noah's thoughts, Sazax shook his head. The so-called existence that surpasses all demons is referring to our identity, Roland said. Identity. Noah was puzzled all of a sudden. What does that mean? Isn't there a so-called mutant in the human world? Aquika sighed. Sazax and I are such existences. We can be said to be mutants among demons. It's hard to say whether we are demons or not, but we have the power that ordinary demons and even demon kings can't have. This is the so-called surpassers. Hearing this, even Noah couldn't help but fall silent. Mutants among demons? You don't even know whether you are a demon or not. No wonder Sazax had such an expression on his face. Of course, thanks to this, we also have the power that far surpasses the demon king level, and have become the current demon king, bringing stability to the demonic world. From this point of view, this is a good thing. The smile on Sazax's face returned to its usual cheerfulness. But even so, I dare not say that I can beat you. That's why Sazax brought me here. Aquika glanced at Noah. To be honest, I'm also very curious about the power of the so-called deicide. And you seem to be planning to use the battle with Syzax to explore new ways to use your power in actual combat. My curiosity has been completely aroused. Can you let me join in? Noah was stunned for a moment and stood up in surprise. In other words, yes. Syzax's eyes flashed with an unusually bright light. This time, your opponent isn't just me, but the two surpassers in the current demonic forces. Syzax alone probably can't bring you any pressure to improve, but with me, it's a different story. Aquika smiled, and her smile was very excited. The two of us have put aside the next month's work and applied for a month's leave to accompany you. So don't let us down. As soon as he finished speaking, both Syzax and Aquika had an unusually terrifying magic power rising from their bodies. The surrounding atmosphere had completely trembled under the stirring of that terrifying magic power. Rumble. The ground shook slightly, and the entire mountain let out a wailing sound. The airwaves formed by pure magic power pushed back the oncoming mountain wind, blowing across every inch of the land and hitting Noah unceremoniously. His clothes fluttered in the wind. Feeling the unusually strong pressure from Syzax and Aquika, Noah's heartbeat began to accelerate. It wasn't because of nervousness, but because his blood was boiling. Noah, Syzax, Aquika, and Asashel were at the highest mountain in the entire Gemengli territory. Its height was high enough to reach above the clouds, and the peak couldn't be seen. And on that day, according to the description of the residents in the Gemengli territory, the situation was like this amidst an earth-shaking loud noise and earthquake. The mountain disappeared without a trace on that very day. Chapter 664. Boom. In the vast alternate space, a terrifying storm that seemed to have materialized carried the impact of a meteorite hitting the earth, sweeping in all directions. Pa 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 pa. After a slight tremor, the surrounding space simply made a shattering sound as if it could not bear the burden. The whole place shook as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. And in the center of the impact storm, three figures were standing facing each other. Their bodies were surging with extremely terrifying magic fluctuations, causing the ground under their feet to crack like a spider web, gradually spreading in all directions. Before the impact storm dissipated, one of the three figures suddenly went limp and knelt on the ground with one knee. His face was incomparably pale, and he was constantly gasping for breath. Although the other two figures did not show a state of great consumption like the former, their posture was also battered and exhausted. They were slightly panting, and their eyes were fluctuating with exhaustion. There was also a trace of weakness on their faces. Obviously, they were also exhausted. Hiding at the side and witnessing how terrifying the battle between the three men was, Asashel smiled bitterly. He came out of the defensive boundary that he personally set up and clapped his hands. Let's stop here. Take a break for a while. Hearing this sentence, the three people in the confrontation almost simultaneously breathed a sigh of relief. Kneeling on the ground with one knee, Noah's face was pale, and he was panting violently. He felt that the originally vast and boundless magic in his body had entered a state of overdraft. At the same time, he experienced the sound of his body being unable to bear the burden and the sharp pain in his head. He laughed bitterly. Sure enough, the consumption and burden of using two avatars at the same time is really too terrifying. If I only used one avatar to fight like usual, then I probably wouldn't be in such a sorry state, right? Saying so, Noah closed his eyes. Noble and smart, elegant and beautiful, I praise your life, and here you are integrated with nature. The spirit of speech representing the elf avatar gently sounded from Noah's mouth. Whoa. A burst of starlight appeared on Noah's body, like small fireflies flying around Noah's body. It was quite beautiful. Under such circumstances, Noah's body that was creaking due to the enormous burden slowly calmed down. The sharp pain in his head also lessened little by little. Even the overdraft of magic in his body was recovering at an extremely fast speed. During this period of time, Noah always needed to rely on the power of the elf to recover after every battle. Otherwise, not to mention frequent actual combat training, just waiting for his body to recover would consume a lot of time. Compared to Noah, who had to try to use 2 avatars in battle, Sazak's and Achuka's consumption was not as intense as Noah's, but fighting with Noah, who used 2 avatars at the same time, was almost too much for them to bear, and they needed to rest from time to time. Fortunately, strictly speaking, Sazak's and Achuka did not belong to the category of demons. In addition, Noah constantly tried to use 2 avatars in battle, and entered a state of intense consumption before the battle even started. Sazak's and Achuka were not affected, and they barely managed to cope. How long has it been since I tried to fight with this level of power? Sazak sat directly on the ground and kept sighing. It seems like I've been in a state where I have to go all out during this period of time, right? If I don't go all out, I can't deal with the power called authority at all. Achuka leaned against a huge rock and panted, but there was an unusual expression in her eyes. I heard that it's a power that has been usurped from God, right? Can the power of God be usurped? This is so interesting. It's worth studying. Don't get too excited. Ashiel smiled bitterly. Don't forget that the 3 of you, who have obtained the highest standards in the world, fought with all your strength. On the first day, you destroyed an entire mountain. That's why we need to move to another space. Otherwise, the entire underworld would be in chaos because of you. But should I say that you're really surpassers? Noah, who was using Elf to recover, opened his eyes and smiled at Sazak's and Achuka. Legend has it that Sazak's Lucifer has the power of destruction that can destroy everything, while Achuka Beelzebub has the ultimate skill of manipulating all phenomena with spells and equations. I've more or less heard about the great deeds of the 2 demon kings from others, but I only know that they're even more terrifying than the rumors when I actually face them. Although Sazak's was born in the Gimli family, his mother was a member of the famous Ball family. On the other hand, the Ball family's bloodline had the trait of destruction, which was perfectly inherited by Sazak's and Laya's, allowing them to use destructive magic to attack. That kind of magic was something that even gods and demon kings could not ignore. Therefore, even if the Godslayer had a foul resistance to curses, his body would probably be destroyed directly if he took a hit. As for Achuka, that was entirely a personal problem. I feel that everything that happens in this world definitely has some sort of law to it. That's why things like tactics and equations that can lead to answers exist. Achuka directly stated her thoughts. I've been fond of calculations since I was a child, and naturally, my magic has been specialized in this direction. Therefore, even if it's someone else's attack, I can take advantage of it, seize it and dominate it, and then add changes to it to increase its speed and power. Interesting, isn't it? In fact, during the battle, Noah's authority was either directly nullified by Sazak's destructive magic, or controlled by Achuka's spells and equations, and then viciously counterattacked. It was precisely because the 2 demon kings had such strength that they were able to withstand Noah's attack after using 2 incarnations, right? Sure enough, asking Achuka to come along was the right decision. Sazak smiled. If I were alone, I would never be able to withstand Noah's power. That power called authority is already so powerful with just 1 clone. If it wasn't for the huge burden and the exhaustion of using 2 clones at the same time, I definitely wouldn't have been able to withstand it. I also think that this power is very interesting, Achuka said excitedly. The power called Storm can even control the sky to a certain extent. The power called White Horse can summon the sun. The power called Priest can control just like me. The power called Phoenix can enter the Godspeed world without any hindrance from the outside world. This is without a doubt a miracle. I don't know if I study it clearly. Can this power be used by people like magic? Achuka fell into deep thought as she said that. This demon king who developed the evil piece was an out-and-out researcher and inventor, and his favorite thing was to conduct all kinds of research and inventions. However, to study the power of authority, and even develop a way to use this power like magic, to be honest, no one thought that it would succeed. After all, this power was originally usurped from God. How could the method of using this power be developed out of thin air? Of course, with Achuka's wisdom, perhaps one day he might be able to develop Pandora's great curse, so that ordinary humans could usurp the power of God after slaying God and create God slayers. That was not to say for sure. So, How are the results on your side? Asashel looked at Noah. The power of 2 clones. It seems that you can use it now? As you can see, I can use it, but the consumption and burden are unimaginable. Noah replied as he recovered his body. However, the more I fight, the more my body adapts, and the more proficient the control of the power will be. If this continues, it should work. That's really scary. Asashel shrugged. I'm looking forward to how strong you can become by then. Noah smiled indifferently and followed up with a question. By the way, how's the special training for Lyeth and the others going? Hearing this, Asashel's face suddenly darkened and changed the topic. What kind of person do you think Junai is? Chapter 665. What kind of person do you think Junai is? Asasher's sudden question made Noah raise his eyebrows directly. Sazax glanced at Asashel meaningfully, smiled and closed his eyes. He looked like he was resting and didn't want anyone to disturb him. On the side, Achuka also leaned on the rock and fell into her own world. In an instant, only Noah and Asashers were left in the entire alternate space, and the atmosphere around them was enough for them to have a conversation. So Noah asked directly, "Why do you ask this question?" Well, Asashers scratched his cheek and sighed. Because I have the responsibility to take care of her on behalf of my partner. Noah did not speak. He just looked at Asashers and began to ponder in his heart. Having said that, Junai seemed to dislike Asachel. Asachel had said the same thing to Junai before the special training began. Accept the blood in his body? Noah frowned. Asashers, what's your relationship with Junai? If you want to talk about relationship, there is indeed a little. Asashers closed his eyes and after thinking for a while he looked up. There's nothing to hide. Junai's father is a companion who has been working with me since the beginning. Companion? Noah was stunned and immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be? Baichio, Asashers said. You should have heard of this name, right? Noah had indeed heard of this name. It was a cadre of the fallen angels, a high-level fallen angel with 5 pairs of 10 wings. His level was the same as Korkabor, but his strength was comparable to Asashers. He could control thunder and lightning, combine it with the power of light, and launch a lightning attack. He could be ranked in the top 3 in the entire fallen angel camp, a powerhouse stronger than Varley. Baichio is Junai's father. When Noah recalled the information about this fallen angel cadre, Asashers said this coldly. In other words, Zhu is a hybrid between a fallen angel and a human. After reincarnating as a demon, not only can she use the power of a demon, she can also use the power of a fallen angel. This news left Noah speechless. Is Vermilion a hybrid between a fallen angel and a human? Or the daughter of Baichio? To be able to use the power of a demon and a fallen angel at the same time? However, Noah had never seen it before. It's normal that you don't know. Junai has never used the power of the fallen angel. In fact, he hates this power, Asashel said with a complicated expression. Junai and Xiao Mao's situation is somewhat similar. Both of them have sealed their other powers within their bodies and have never used them. After Asashel's reminder, Noah also remembered. When he was in Kitten's room, Junai did say that she was like Kitten. She hated the blood and power in her body. Before the special training began, Asashel had told Junai that she had to accept the blood in her body. Was he referring to the blood and power of the fallen angel? But why? Noah asked in confusion. Why does Junai have to seal her power like Kitten? Is it because that power will also cause her to go berserk? That's not it. Asashel shook his head. Junai hates the blood and power of the fallen angel flowing in her body. It's entirely my fault. Junai's mother was called Ji Dao Zhuli. Once, Baichio was seriously injured and met Ji Dao Zhuli by chance. Under Ji Dao Zhuli's meticulous care, they gradually developed feelings for each other. The two fell in love and lived together. The daughter they gave birth to was Ji Dao Junai. However, one day, because of some matters that needed to be dealt with, Baichio left his wife and daughter and returned to the fallen angel camp. However, this also gave Baichio's enemies an opportunity to attack Baichio's wife and daughter. In order to protect Junai, Jidao Julie sacrificed herself. Junai always thought that if Baiqiu did not leave at that time, her mother would not have died. Since then, she has hated Baiqiu and the fallen angel bloodline in her body. Asashal's tone was full of complexity. In fact, that day, I insisted that Baiqiu come back to deal with some matters. Therefore, it is entirely my fault that his wife died and his daughter hated him so much. Noah really did not know what to say about such a secret. Because of this, Junai had never accepted the blood in her body and had always sealed the power of the fallen angel, right? Because of me, one of my companion's wife and daughter died directly, and the other has always hated him. Even I don't know what to do. Asashal rubbed his eyebrows. If possible, I truly wish that I could do something. However, that Baiqiu actually silently bore his daughter's hatred. He never bothered to explain himself, nor did he allow me to interfere. As a result, this matter has been dragging on for so long. I feel very uncomfortable in my heart. And then, Noah nodded. Are you planning to use this special training to let Junai begin to accept the blood in her body? Julie will die. Junai is not wrong, and Baiqiu is not wrong either. I am the only one at fault, Asashal said. Junai herself must have understood that her father was not wrong at all, but she was never willing to admit it. Therefore, I want to slowly let her accept me. I have to start with the power of the fallen angel in her body. I even arranged for Baiqiu to guide her cultivation, but it seems to have no effect. At this point, Asashal patted his face. Junai's situation is somewhat similar to Kitten's. You are thinking of a way to let Kitten accept you, right? Why don't you think of a way to manage Junai's matter? After all, she is your fiancé's family, right? Aren't you thinking too highly of me? Noah sighed. If it was so easy to solve, then Kitten would not have fallen into a coma now, and Jishima would not have lived with this hatred for so many years. Regardless, you are usually in contact with Lias's family. If you have the chance, help me take care of Junai. Asashal patted Noah's shoulder and immediately said to Sarzax, who was silent beside him. By the way, your sister's family is also a group of interesting people. Not only is there the daughter of the fallen angel Kadre, but there is also the last descendant of the strongest combat race of the Nikomata race, the Felinas. There are also the sword saint of 2 churches. It's really a gathering of all kinds of people. Even I am a little surprised. Sarzax suddenly smiled. Especially that girl named Genova. It is said that she seems to be a natural wielder of the holy sword. And she has a real holy sword on her, right? A real holy sword. Noah's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the trump card that Genova has been hiding is actually the holy sword? That's right. Asashal nodded. It's not a part of some messy holy sword, but another complete holy sword that is completely on par with the Sword of Kings. A complete holy sword. That was the trump card that Genova had been hiding. This piqued Noah's interest. What kind of holy sword is it? You want to know? Go back and ask Genova yourself after the special training. Asashal stood up. You guys have almost recovered, right? Hearing this, Noah realized that he had almost recovered. His body was full of strength again, his head no longer hurt, and even his magic power had recovered by more than half. He could continue fighting. On the other side, Sarzax and Achuka opened their eyes at the same time and nodded. We can continue at any time. Good. Asashal said loudly. Then let's continue. After saying that, Asashal slipped away and ran directly into the enchantment that he had set up not far away. He looked like he had nothing to do with it, and did not want to be implicated. Seeing this, Noah, Sarzax, and Achuka were all speechless. For the time being, Asashal was also the governor of the fallen angels, and a strong man who was on par with the gods and demon kings. Under such circumstances, he still had such a performance when facing Noah, Sarzax, and Achuka. It was conceivable that the battle of these 3 men who were out of the norm was against the rules. There are nearly 25 days until the end of the month. Noah clenched his fist and felt the power flowing in his body. He immersed his mind in the stone plate with the pattern of the 10 incarnations on the outline, and the corners of his mouth gradually rose. At least I have to control the power of using 2 incarnations at the same time. Chapter 666. A month later, in the corner of that alternate space, a Satchel, who was in the barrier, stared at the scene before him, falling into an uncontrollable shock. Right in front of a Satchel, a scene that could only be described as unbearable to look at was presented before him. Dong. This was the sound of a mountain being cut in half and crashing to the ground. Pa. This was the sound of rolling rocks falling into the crevices that were spreading out from the ground. Wang. This was the sound of the surrounding atmosphere constantly stirring together, so chaotic that it could be seen with the naked eye. Kacha. This was the sound of space breaking apart like glass, exposing a pitch-black void to the air. Amidst the various sounds and visions, Sazix and Achuka were standing back to back in a bottomless pit. Their clothes were tattered, and they were panting heavily. They couldn't even utter a single word as their bodies trembled in exhaustion. Against the backdrop of such scenes, Noah straightened his back and stood straight in the middle of the bottomless pit, panting slightly. Looking at Sazix and Achuka, who had their backs against each other and could no longer fight, Noah raised his hand and stared at his palm. After a while, he held them tightly. Finally, a Satchel finally reacted and hurriedly leaped up. 12 black wings appeared on his back, and with a slight flap, he flew into the bottomless pit and came to Sazix and Achuka's side. Hey, are you two okay? Sazix and Achuka shook their heads at the same time, but they were still panting heavily. After a while, they raised their heads, looked at each other, and laughed bitterly. I didn't expect. Sazix's eyes flickered as if he was recalling something. I didn't expect him to be so strong. Sazix, Achuka said with a sigh. We can't. Even if we join forces, we can't be his match anymore. That's just the power of two avatars, isn't it? Sazix shuddered. If he could use the power of all 10 incarnations at the same time, what would he become? Achuka's breath caught and she couldn't say a word. What will it become? A Satchel shifted his gaze to Noah, who was standing there with his back straight. A forced smile appeared on his face. Then I estimate that even if we add in the person with unlimited power, all the top experts of the top 10 forces combined wouldn't be able to last more than 3 minutes against him, right? While saying that, Sazix, Achuka, and a Satchel couldn't help but recall the full strength that Noah had just displayed. All of them fell silent. Unlike Sazix, Achuka, and a Satchel, Noah had an excited and satisfied smile on his face. A month's time might seem short, but Noah had fought nearly 1,000 battles with 2 experts of the same rank. With 2 experts of the same rank as him as a sparring partner, and him constantly going back and forth between intense consumption and rapid recovery, due to using 2 avatars at the same time, Noah finally achieved satisfactory results on the last day, due to the nature of the Godslayer, that allowed him to become stronger through battle. However, this was only the beginning. A month's time was more or less limited. But I've already taken the first step successfully. The next step is to continue walking down this path. Noah's eyes were unprecedentedly bright. After stretching, he waved at Sazix, Achuka, and a Satchel. All right, we should go back. Sazix, Achuka, and a Satchel looked at each other, and finally laughed in unison. He's so carefree. And here I thought his first words would be thanks or something. Well, isn't that good? To have such a powerful fellow not treat us as outsiders. With that, Sazix and Achuka stood up with a Satchel's help. Soon, a magical teleportation circle flashed in this alternate space, and the presence of living beings completely disappeared from this space. Only a broken alternate space was left, and it was slowly crumbling here. The courtyard of the Jamonli family's residence, in front of the fountain, a group of Jamonli's kin had gathered together again. Riaz walked out of the door, and was immediately greeted by her kin. Minister, you're all back? Riaz looked around at her kin and smiled proudly. Everyone's mana has increased by a lot, as expected of my kin. Indeed, whether it was Junai, Aisha, Genova, Irina, Label, or Kiba Yudo, all of their auras had increased by a huge margin. Irina made a victory gesture. Aisha and I have developed the power of the 4 pawns together. Our power has increased by a lot. Yes. Aisha nodded. My healing ability has increased by a lot as well. The healing time has decreased. It was not just Aisha and Irina. The rest of them had improved as well. Especially Genova, who was holding a blue and white greatsword with a wide bottom and a sharp top. Everyone present could feel an extremely strong holy power from the sword. And even the demons felt a prickling sensation on their skin. That's a holy sword, right? Laibel asked curiously. It doesn't seem to be the same as your holy sword of destruction, and Irina's holy sword of mimicry. Of course it's different, Irina exclaimed. Those two holy swords were forged using the fragments of the king's sword. But Genova's sword is a complete holy sword. It's not something a broken holy sword can compare to. A complete holy sword. Everyone looked at the holy sword in Genova's hand. So that's Genova's hidden trump card. Leah smiled. That's Dilindar. You should have heard of it before. As soon as she said that, a voice entered everyone's ears. So that's how it is. So the holy sword that Genova wields is Dilindar. As the voice echoed, a teleportation circle appeared in front of the fountain, and 4 figures appeared in front of everyone's eyes. However, when Laius and the rest saw this scene, all of the Zamanli's kin, including Laius, were shocked. This was because apart from Asashel, Noah, Sazax, and Achuka were all in tatters. They were in a sorry state. Sensei, brother? And His Highness Beelzebub? Laius asked, stunned. How did you all become like this? Hearing this, Sazax and Achuka could not help but smile bitterly, while Asashel was gloating on the side. Even Noah was a little unnatural. After all, it was Noah who had turned Sazax and Achuka into this, wasn't it? Let's not talk about this for now, Laius, Sazax said to Laius. Achuka is going back, but we can't let a demon king go back in this state. So I'll go arrange for Achuka to rest first. I understand. Laius nodded subconsciously. There's a gathering of the new generation of demons today, right? Achuka said to Laius' kin. Prepare yourselves well. When the time comes, the 4 demon kings and many nobles will be there. Yes. The Zamanli's kin quickly answered. Then, Sazax and Achuka left the scene together, and entered the Zamanli's home. Laius. Noah came to Laius and asked. How's the kitten? The smile on Laia's face slowly disappeared as she shook her head. No, there's still no sign of waking up. Is that so? Noah was silent for a moment before nodding. Then I'll go see the kitten first. With that, Noah walked straight into the Zamanli's home. It was only then that Laius and the others reacted. Laibel was the first to ask. How's Sensei Noah's special training? Ace's face immediately filled with distress. What should I say? Chapter 667. Phew. Phew. Amidst the rhythmic breathing, the kitten curled up its petite body and lay on the bed. Its pair of cat ears would shake a few times from time to time, and its tail would subconsciously sway from time to time. It was especially cute. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Noah stared at Kitten's sleeping face, and did not speak for a long time. 1 month, it was not a long time, but it was also quite short. It passed in an instant. However, it was also relatively short. For someone like Noah who used a month's time to improve his strength and undergo strict special training, a month passed in the blink of an eye. However, for the kitten who had been lying on the bed for a long time without waking up, sleeping for a whole month was too long no matter how one looked at it. Basically, Noah came here every day and saw Kitten's sleeping posture. Even during special training, Noah would still take about 30 minutes of his time to come here every day to see Kitten. Although no one could get tired of the cute sleeping posture of the kitten, looking at the kitten lying there without any sign of waking up, anyone would feel more or less sad. Sigh. Noah could not help but sigh. It's time for you to wake up. The kitten I know isn't the kind of person who would run away for so long. If you're really that sad, then just wave your iron fist like in the past and send them all flying. Isn't that enough? You're a rook, aren't you? In terms of value, a rook was equivalent to 5 pawns. The evil piece, on the other hand, would evaluate the value of the target's ability, potential, talent, and other aspects. That was to say, in terms of value, Kitten's ability, potential, and talent were even above Isha, Genova, Irina, Laibel, and Kibayuto. In the past, Noah never understood why Kitten's potential was so high. But now it seemed that it was because Kitten was the strongest of the Nikomata clan. Blindly denying yourself will only make it more painful. Just like in the past, this sentence did not receive any reply. The kitten was still sleeping so soundly, giving people the feeling that it had just fallen asleep. It didn't have the slightest sense of weakness that one would expect after lying on the bed for more than a month. Knowing that it was useless to say more, Noah could only shake his head and leave this sentence. I hope you can recognize what you should be doing soon, and not lie in bed and avoid everything like you are doing now. After that, Noah stood up and quietly walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. Therefore, Noah did not see it. The moment the door was closed, the corner of the sleeping cat's eyes showed traces of tears. Teacher. After walking out of Kitten's room, Noah immediately heard a familiar voice calling out to him. Turning his head, Noah looked in the direction of the voice. There, Song-na and Zhuangji, dressed in Chariot King Academy's uniform, were slowly walking towards him. Noah was more or less surprised. Why are you two here? Upon hearing that, Song-na smiled. There's a gathering of the new generation of demons today, and the 4 great demon kings will also be there. So I plan to go with Leah to the venue and work together. With that, Song-na lowered his head and bowed to Noah. Speaking of which, I haven't thanked you yet, teacher. It's all thanks to you that time with Korkabor. Song-na should be referring to the incident where Korkabor abducted him, right? At that time, the one who saved Song-na from Korkabor's clutches was Noah. Although Noah did not mention it, Song-na must have heard about it from the others. It had been almost 2 months since the incident with Korkabor, and it was too late to thank Noah now. Of course, Noah did not take it to heart. No matter what, I'm still a teacher. Noah shook his head. There's no way a teacher would leave a student in the lurch, right? You're still so gentle, teacher. Undoubtedly, you're only 2 or 3 years older than us. Song-na could not help but laugh. But that's also why you're so popular in the school. I've learned a thing or two about that today. Just as Noah and Song-na were chatting happily, a sweet voice came from not far away. King-na-chan. When the voice reached Noah, Song-na and Zhuangji's ears, Noah and Zhuangji aside, Song-na's face was completely frozen. As Song-na's expression stiffened, a figure ran over from the corner of the corridor and hugged Song-na. Long time no see, King-na-chan. The one who said this and hugged Song-na tightly was a young girl who looked about the same age as Song-na. The young girl had beautiful long black hair that was not inferior to Junai's. However, her waist-length black hair was tied into 2 ponytails that were full of vitality. Coupled with her sweet and lively voice, she was simply like a cheerful young girl in her prime. In fact, even if she was a young lady, she was still a young lady of a relatively high level. The young lady had a very delicate and sweet face, and her whole body exuded a sense of vitality. She was like a playful and cute little girl, and one could not help but feel close to her. However, Noah felt an extremely obscure magical wave from this beautiful young lady, who was full of intimacy. Even if the magical wave was not as strong as Sazak's or Achuka's, it was still extremely strong and was not inferior to Asashal's. Such a strong magical wave, and such a close relationship with Song-na. Noah thought of someone. At the same time, Song-na, who was hugged by the beautiful young lady, also cried out in a somewhat pathetic manner. His sister? Why are you here? Yes, sister. The beautiful young lady in front of him was Song-na's sister, one of the current 4 demon kings, the only female demon king with the name of Leviathan, Seraphil Leviathan. That's too much, King-na-chan. While Noah was looking at Seraphil with some surprise, the current demon king, Her Highness Leviathan, was like a little girl who was throwing a tantrum, puffing up her cheeks in dissatisfaction. Undoubtedly, you came to the underworld, but you didn't come to see me first. I'm so sad that I'm about to cry. Seeing that Seraphil was about to pretend to cry, the corners of Noah's mouth twitched fiercely. Is this girl really a demon king? She's even more frivolous than Sazak's, the big brother of the family. She doesn't have the dignity of a demon king at all. A demon king is actually acting cute like this? Is there really no problem? Songna obviously had the same thoughts as Noah, and her face was unprecedentedly red. That was because of shame and humiliation. Sister, you're a demon king. Please pay attention to your words and actions. This is very embarrassing. What? Seraphil's cheeks puffed up more and more, and even the corners of her eyes were filled with tears. Little Tsong, who always said, I love Big Sister the most when I was a child, has finally started to dislike Big Sister? Noah almost spat out. Love Big Sister the most? That cold student council president was like this when he was a child? Big Sister. Songna's face was already so red from embarrassment that it couldn't get any redder. Even her voice was raised. My teacher is still here. Please don't make me lose face again, okay? Teacher. Seraphil was startled. And then she seemed to have discovered Noah. She looked at Noah, and then her eyes lit up. Could it be that you're the little brother of the Red Dragon Emperor? The God Slayer that little Sazax and little Achuka can't forget? What do you mean they can't forget? Noah resisted the urge to ridicule and laughed dryly. Hello, Miss Leviathan. However, Seraphil didn't care about Noah's somewhat unfamiliar greeting at all. She directly grabbed Noah's hand and shook it vigorously. Might Song Nachan is really in your care. When Song Nachan was about to be defiled by the hateful fallen angel cadre, you appeared handsomely and saved Song Nachan at once. When I first heard the news, I was super moved. It was like a prince and a princess. Noah was speechless. Chapter 668. Look at this. In the reception hall of the Gemengli family, Seraphil was holding a photo only 5 centimeters away from Noah's face, and exclaiming excitedly, this is a photo of Kangnachan when she was 12 years old. She started to put on a straight face since then, but because she was very young, she looked very cute. Very cute, right? Right. Being entertained by the Demon King with such a warm attitude, Noah could only stiffen his face and endure Seraphil's excited expression as she held the photo and expressed her overly heavy love for her sister. The corners of his eyes kept twitching. Taking a closer look, there were photos on the ground around the excited Seraphil. Those photos were all of Kangnachan. It should be said that those photos were all photos of Kangnachan's growth process. There were photos of her when she was just 1 year old. There were photos taken with Seraph, and photos of him following Seraph around like a shadow. There were photos of her carrying a school bag and seemingly preparing to go to school. There were also photos of her studying at FOA Academy when she had just entered the human world. At that time, she started to become cold and pretentious. All of these photos were of Kangnachan. Noah did not know why Seraphil carried a lot of photos of Kangnachan with her, and all of them from childhood to adulthood. However, Noah's intuition told him that if he took this seriously, he would lose. It's really great that the human world has photography technology. Although demons can also use magic power to record images, they are not as easy to collect as photos in the human world. So ever since I learned about the photography technology, I've been very happy to be able to record Kangnachan's growth in this form. The humans who invented photography are really great. Seraphil did not seem to realize that there was anything wrong with her behavior at all, and was still venting her enthusiasm for Noah. Noah was almost unable to bear it. On the side, Kangnachan's face was already distorted. She looked like she wanted to find a hole to bury her head in before completely fainting and erasing this memory. To be honest, this was the first time Noah had seen Kangnachan like this. Therefore, Noah was also very happy. Just as Kanna was about to burst into tears, Sazax appeared. Oh, he seemed to be quite happy. Did anything good happen? Yo, little Sazax, Seraphil greeted Sazax with a photo in her hand. I'm showing little Noah pictures of Might Song Na when she was young. Little Noah? This form of address reminded Noah of Gaia and Pandora, the two girls who claimed to be his mother. Come to think of it, Seraphil's energetic appearance was quite similar to Gaia and Pandora. Childhood photos? Sazax was slightly taken aback, but he soon understood. So that's how it is. Do you want to take a look at my Lias's childhood photos? While saying that, Sazax took out a few photos from his pocket. A cursory glance showed that almost all of the photos were of Laius when she was young. Why did the two demon kings carry around pictures of their younger sisters? Noah felt that he could not keep up with the pace in front of him. Laius. Canna, on the other hand, was moved to tears as if she had found a home. So you're like me, enduring this hellish humiliation all the time. As expected of my childhood sweetheart. She really found a home in a strange place. Noah suppressed the churning in his heart and spoke directly. The gathering of the new generation of demons seems to be starting soon. Sazik's Seraphil, don't you need to leave first? Well, little Noah, you're being too formal. Seraphil made a V gesture. Just call me Lil Levy. Noah automatically ignored Seraphil's words and looked at Sazik's. I'm about to head to the venue. Sazik smiled. But Noah, do you want to come along? Me. Noah was stunned. Although it's a gathering of the new generation of demons, the purpose of the gathering is to encourage the new generation of demons who are about to make their debut, including their kin, Sazik said. Although there are also creatures of other races among the demons' kin, in terms of numbers, humans have the advantage because of their strong reproductive ability. If you, the God Slayer, appear as a human, it will greatly increase the confidence of those who were reincarnated from humans to demons. Is that so? Noah mused for a moment before nodding. Very well. I've received a lot of care from you over the past month. I'll go. Thank you very much. Sazik smiled brightly, but stuffed the photos in his hand into Noah's arms in the next second. By the way, these are for you. Go back and admire Laius's adorable look when she was young. My Canna too. Seraphil stuffed the photos that covered the entire floor to Noah. Zoom in and stick them in your room. You'll have good dreams at night. That's personal experience, isn't it? Noah could only smile. As for Canna, she was already crying. Rating game. It was a mainstream game that used chess as a template to determine the status of demons. After the war between demons, angels, and fallen angels, many of the pureblood families of the 72 pillars on the demon side had been cut off. In order to increase the combat power of demons, the current Beelzebub, who was also a Chukka, developed the evil piece to carry out demon reincarnation. The so-called rating game was built on this foundation. The only ones who could have the evil piece, regard themselves as the king, and obtain kin by giving the piece to others were the superior demons and the superior demons. The ranking game was a battle between the superior demons and the superior demons who led their own kin to battle each other. In this kind of competition, the organizers would set up many rules and restrictions. How to use these rules, restrictions, and the flexible use of the terrain would affect the evaluation of the demons participating in the game. Then, according to their performance in the competition, if they received a high evaluation, their status as a demon would rise. Some could even get a title and be promoted to nobles, joining the ranks of the superior demons, and even the superior demons. Their influence would be enough to expand to the entire demon world. Because of this, the rating game had become the mainstream of the entire demon world. Even if they were the descendants of pure-blooded demon nobles, if many newborn demons could display their skills in the rating game and obtain high ratings, their status would become higher and higher. Therefore, to demons, the rating game played an important role. If they wanted to stand out, they had to rely on it. As long as they had the ability, even if they were low-level demons from ordinary backgrounds, they would eventually stand out and join the ranks of the upper class. Now, almost every superior demon from a noble family would participate in the rating game to increase their status and influence. However, those who could participate in the official rating game were only those adult demons. As the next heads of the Jamonli family and the Sidi family, Laius and Canna were now about to reach adulthood and were qualified to participate in the rating game. Therefore, the new generation of demons who were close to Laius and Canna's age would gather at this time when they were about to make their debut. They would gather with the superior demons who were also from noble families and had great backgrounds to greet the higher-ups of the demons and increase their competitiveness. For this reason, the 4 demon kings would even be present in person to encourage the superior demons from noble families. With Sazax and Seraphil as his companions, Noah came to a luxurious building in the Demon King's territory. Under Sazax and Seraphil's lead, Noah entered through the back door of the building and came directly to a luxurious room. In this room, two people had already arrived ahead of time. One was a flirtatious man. The other was a lazy-looking man. The former was a chuka. As for the latter, Noah had already guessed her identity. Chapter 669. Oh, you're already here? A chuka, who was talking to the lazy-looking man, turned around and smiled when she saw Noah. I knew Sazax would definitely invite you here. It seemed that a chuka also knew why Sazax had invited Noah here. Or rather, if even a chuka couldn't guess Sazax's intentions, then basically no one would be able to guess Sazax's intentions. It wasn't because a chuka was a surpasser like Sazax. It was because Sazax and a chuka had always been competitors before he became a demon king. According to a chuka, Sazax was the main reason why he became Demon King Beelzebub. Since Sazax became a demon king, a chuka also became a demon king. This was the relationship between the two of them. It was said that Sazax and a chuka had once fought over Lucifer's position. In the end, the demon higher-ups all thought that Sazax and a chuka were on par in terms of strength, but in terms of leadership, Sazax was still better. Thus, Sazax was qualified for Lucifer's position, while a chuka turned to fight for Beelzebub's position, and successfully became the second demon king. The people who understood a person the most were not their family, friends, or relatives, but their opponents. That was the relationship between Sazax and a chuka. Let me introduce you. A chuka turned sideways and let the lazy-looking man enter Noah's field of vision. He's Felubium Asmodeus. Is this enough for an introduction? Of course. Speaking of Asmodeus, who else could it be other than one of the four demon kings? Lucifer, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus. These four surnames were the surnames that only the four demon kings of the underworld could have. Sazax Lucifer, Seraph Leviathan, a chuka Beelzebub, Felubium Asmodeus. Now the four demon kings were gathered in front of Noah. Hello, I'm Felubium. The last demon king greeted Noah in an extremely lazy and undomineering tone, like a nerd who had no drive at all. Although I'm the demon king, I don't want to do things that are too troublesome. Therefore, being able to witness the signing of a peace treaty between the three major powers has reduced my workload by quite a bit. I sincerely welcome such God-Slayer and Red Dragon Emperor. Noah was very calm when he heard Felubium's heartfelt words. With Sazax and Seraph as examples, Noah no longer felt that the legendary demon king was a great and majestic figure. As for a chuka, despite his serious appearance, this demon king who was passionate about inventions and research was currently in a state of idleness. Basically, except for things that could stimulate a chuka's curiosity, this demon king was in a state of refusing to work. In the past, the demon king's work was also pushed to his subordinates and the other three demon kings. He himself only attended some meetings and occasions that the demon king had to attend. In other words, the current four demon kings were a group of guys who did not have any majesty that a demon king should have. Therefore, Noah felt that even if he were to ridicule Felubium here, it was simply for his own amusement. Sorry, it seems that it took a lot of time because of me. At that moment, Noah did not make any unnecessary pleasantries and directly said so. Teleportation magic arrays in the same dimension and space are ineffective on me, so Sazax, Seraph, and I could only come here by transportation. I heard that this is the special physique of the God-Slayer, a chuka said excitedly. Except for the power that works on the gods, all other mystical powers are ineffective on the God-Slayer. I was very surprised when I first heard about it. With that said, a chuka looked at Noah as if he wanted to dissect Noah, which made Noah's hair stand on end. That's really a convenient physique. I don't have to worry about being attacked by some small fries. If I had your physique, then I wouldn't have to be on guard against being attacked at all times. It would save me a lot of trouble. Felubium sighed. When can I live a leisurely life without a job and just eat and wait for death every day? I can't ridicule. If I ridicule, I will definitely lose. Noah desperately told himself in his heart and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. So has the party started? It's almost started. All the higher-ups of the demons are here, And we're the only ones left. Achuka shrugged. It should be said that you came at the right time. If you enter now, you can just start. Really, you came at the right time. You don't even give us time to slack off. Isn't that too strict? We still need to pay attention to the situation of the new generation. Sazak suddenly smiled. However, it's not bad to be able to end it early. I still plan to go home and watch TV with my son. Speaking of TV, I just accepted the filming of a new movie. Seraphil blinked cutely. The title is The Glitter of Leviathan. You guys have to come when it's released. Of course, of course. Sazak, Achuka, and Felubium immediately nodded in unison. No matter how much he told himself to be calm, Noah felt that something in his heart was broken. That was his understanding of the existence of the Demon King. Oh, Demon Kings! Must they be so happy? In the vast venue, a solemn atmosphere pervaded the air. It was a venue like a ballroom. Most of the venue was a vast space filled with round tables and chairs. It looked like the scene of a grand banquet, full of atmosphere. In such a venue, there were a few people standing at the front of everyone. Among them Laya's Kana, and the two girls' families were among them. And in front of Laya's Kana and the two girls' families was a platform. The platform was filled with tables and chairs, and demons who looked to be at least 30 or 40 years old sat on it. There were men and women of all ages, and each of them had a serious and cold expression on their faces. Although they were very imposing, they gave off a feeling of inhumanity. Under such circumstances, there were 4 chairs that were clearly more than twice the size of the people around them, and were placed at the highest point. They were empty for the time being, and it was obvious at a glance that only the 4 highest-ranking people in the venue could sit on them. Then Sazak, Seraph, Achuka, and Felubium led Noah out from behind the curtain beside the platform. Greetings, your royal highnesses. Everyone present, including those who were sitting calmly in their seats, stood up and bowed to the 4 demon kings, bowing solemnly. Unlike just now, Sazak, Seraph, Achuka, and Felubium no longer looked frivolous. They just nodded at the people around them and came to the platform. As such, Noah, who appeared with the 4 demon kings, immediately attracted everyone's attention. Putting aside Laya's, Kana, and the others, the demons' higher-ups were stunned at first, and then someone lost his composure and exclaimed, "Isn't that the Godslayer?" As soon as those words came out, the entire venue was silent. When he fought with Rizzle in the alternate dimension, apart from the Jamonli family and the Phoenix family, many demon nobles witnessed that battle in the form of spectators. Naturally, many of the demons' higher-ups here had seen Noah's display of invincible might. Does everyone know the identity of the person beside me? Sazak turned and spoke loudly to everyone present. As the Godslayer and the Crimson Dragon Emperor of the 2 heavenly dragons, I believe everyone has heard of His Excellency Noah. Today is a rare day for the new generation of demons to gather for their future debut. And we, the 4 demon kings, have invited His Excellency Noah to attend together. Although His Excellency Noah is not a demon, he is still our honored guest. We must treat him well, understood? Yes. The demons who reacted responded in unison. Prepare another seat. Achuka spoke at the right time. As an existence equal to gods and demon kings, there is no reason for him to be below us. With that, Noah's status instantly rose to the same level as the demon kings. Chapter 670. In less than 3 minutes, another seat of the same standard was placed next to the 4 largest and most conspicuous seats at the top of the platform, turning the 4 seats into 5. Well then, Sir Noah, please take your seat. Perhaps because they were in front of the public, Sazak used a formal speech and invited Noah to take his seat along with Seraph, Achuka, and Felubium. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Noah nodded and sat down with Sazak and the other demon kings, looking down below. Because it was such a formal occasion, no one would talk about such things. But the demons below, and even the higher-ups of the demons, had their eyes on Noah, as if they were observing Noah, the Godslayer, and the Red Dragon Emperor. On the contrary, Leah's, Kana, and the 2 girls' families were not surprised. Leah's even gave an introduction. I am Leah's Gimli, the next head of the Gimli family. As soon as Leah's voice trailed off, Kanna continued. I am Kanna Sidi, the next head of the Sidi family. The one who spoke after Kanna was a very strong man with a strong sense of presence. I am Sariog Bal, the next head of the Bal family of the great king. A bespectacled woman with the demeanor of an older sister also spoke. I am Seguila Agars, the next head of the Agars family of the great duke. Then, a gentle-looking young man introduced himself. I am Diodora Astalot, the next head of the Astalot family. Finally, a guy with tattoos all over his face, sloppy clothes, and ornaments all over his body said in a rough tone. He looked like a gangster. I am Jefidal Graciolapos, the next head of the Graciolapos family. 6 of the new generation of demons, all of whom were the next heads of nobles that everyone was familiar with. In particular, these 6 people's families were very special, because the current demon king Lucifer was from the Gimli family, the current Leviathan was from the Sidi family, the current Beelzebub was from the Astalot family, and the current Asmodeus was from the Graciolapos family. That was to say, among the 6 new generations, for were the blood relatives of the current demon king. The remaining 2 families, Bal and Agars, were from the great king family and the great duke family. In the demon realm, the status of these 2 families could be said to be second only to the demon king. For example, if the demon king was the chairman of a company, then the great duke would be the manager. The 6 of them all had great backgrounds. Was it because of this that even the demon king attended the gathering of the new generation of demons? Pillars of the next generation, I'm very happy to see you standing here. Syzax looked around at the new generation of demons. The 6 of you are the new generation with impeccable family background and strength. I hope that you can meet each other face to face before you officially debut, to confirm your beliefs and opponents. We have placed our dreams and hopes on you young people. I hope that you can understand this, that you are the treasures of the underworld. There wasn't the slightest bit of falsehood in Syzax's words, causing many of the new generation demon kin below to blush in excitement. Clearly, to be valued by the demon king Lucifer was an honor for any demon, right? Here, I want to hear your vision, Syzax continued. Can I ask you to tell me your future goals? The new generation of demons immediately looked at each other. The first to stand up was the next head of the great king family, Bal family, the muscular man who exuded an awe-inspiring presence, Saraoj. I want to be the demon king. Saraoj said this sentence without beating around the bush. He was very firm, which made many of the demons' higher-ups exclaim in admiration. If the great king family produces a demon king, that would be a first in history. A demon's higher-up side. Wasn't that right? The Bal family was already in existence second only to the demon king in terms of status. A person from such a family would become the highest demon king? When that time comes, perhaps his influence would be the greatest among all the demon kings. While the higher-ups were exclaiming in admiration, Laius stepped forward and spoke with a determined face. My dream is to stand at the peak of the rating game and become the undisputed champion. Hearing Laius' words, Syzax could not help but put on a smile on his face. That was also an incredible dream. One should know that the rating game was the mainstream way to determine one's status in the demon world. The higher the ranking, the higher the status of the demon. So, what did it mean to be the champion? It meant that even a servant could obtain a status only second to the demon king. It had to be said that this was also a great and far-sighted dream. Under such circumstances, Song Na stepped forward and said, "Don't worry about it. I want to establish a school for the rating game in the underworld." The upper echelons, who had been in awe until now, opened their eyes wide at the same time and looked at each other in dismay. Not to mention the higher-ups, even Noah was puzzled. Establishing a school? What kind of dream was that? Wasn't the status of the Sidi family something that could be achieved in minutes? One of the higher-ups asked directly. There's already a place to learn the game in the underworld, right? Hearing this, Song Na only replied indifferently. That's a school that can only be attended by the higher-ups and some of the demons with special privileges. I want to establish a school that educates everyone regardless of background. Even the lower-level demons and reincarnated demons can study there. A school without barriers. The entire place suddenly went silent. In the next second, ha 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 ha. The higher-ups of the demons laughed out loud in unison. Their laughter even resounded throughout the entire venue, and they spoke with a mocking tone. Is this the dream of the next head of the Seedy family? You're not kidding, right? What a little girl who loves to dream. Young people will always be young. Fortunately, this kind of dream is only said here. If word gets out, I'm afraid more people will laugh at us, right? Under the ridicule of the higher-ups of the demons, Kana was expressionless from beginning to end, as if she had already expected this situation. But there was still a trace of gloominess in her eyes. With Liaz as the leader, the Zamanli and Seedy families showed a solemn expression, and some showed anger directly. Sitting next to Noah, Seraph was even more worried. There were tears in the corners of her eyes, as if she had seen her family being bullied by a villain. It was a grievance. Noah more or less understood why such a scene happened. In the world of demons, things like status were very important. Most demons place great importance on status, and they took it for granted that there was a hierarchy between the highest, middle, lower, and even pure-blooded demons and reincarnated demons. As a result, many higher demons naturally looked down on lower demons, while pure-blooded demons also looked down on reincarnated demons, forming a class gap. For those ancient higher demons, it was only natural for them to be served by middle, lower, and even reincarnated demons, while they looked down on them. Therefore, such people were the ones who mocked Kana's dream. We can't agree with your dream, one of the higher-ups said sarcastically. Lower demons should serve and obey higher demons. That's common sense. If lower demons can receive the same treatment as higher demons, then how can we, the higher demons, lead those lower demons? Most importantly, those people shouldn't be worth it for us to do so, right? Another higher-up was even more explicit. You want to teach lower demons of low status? You'll be laughed at. Just as Kana's expression became more and more solemn due to the increasingly excessive remarks, Sazax shouted coldly. Shut up, all of you. There are human VIPs here. What nonsense are you all talking about? All of the higher-ups immediately shut up. Sazax lowered his head at Noah. Sorry for making a fool of myself. However, Noah laughed instead. No, I'm happy to see such a situation. Chapter 671. Happy to see it? Everyone present, including Sazax, Seraph, Achuka, and Philibium, were stunned. Aside from the demons' leaders and the bystanders, even Liath and the girls were stunned. Even Song Na was flabbergasted. What was the meaning of this sentence? Was he adding insult to injury? But wasn't Noah's relationship with Kana pretty good? That was why no one thought that Noah would suddenly say something like that. Seraph, who couldn't hide her thoughts, asked blankly. What does that mean? It's just the literal meaning. Noah merely glanced at the demons' leaders who were mocking Kana and smiled coldly. If a dream gives people the feeling that it's too easy to realize, they would only feel, as expected, even when it's realized. There would be no sense of accomplishment at all. On the other hand, if it's a dream that everyone thinks is impossible and even mocked, what would the faces of those who mocked others look like when it's realized? Don't you think it's quite exciting? As soon as this was said, the faces of the fiend higher-ups changed slightly. Moreover, the mockery of others can sometimes bring a heavy blow, but it can also bring great motivation. From what I know about Kana, today's mockery should be the motivation for her to realize her dream, right? Noah's voice echoed clearly throughout the hall. The more the dream is mocked, the more valuable it is to be realized. As a teacher, all I can do is to give my student a push when she's on the path to realize her dream, and pull her back when she's on the wrong path. Kana, don't let me down. Those words weren't very impassioned, and were even rather flat. However, when Noah's words entered Song Na's ears, they became a tumbling torrent that made Song Na's heart burn. She lowered her head deeply in Noah's direction, and squeezed out a voice that was obviously suppressed from her throat. Yes, teacher. The atmosphere that had become extremely heavy due to the mockery of the demons' leaders was all dispelled at once. Liaz and the others couldn't help but smile. Sazax, Achuka, and Phlebium also slowly raised the corners of their mouths. Seraph was even more agitated as she clutched Noah's hand tightly. If it weren't for the fact that this wasn't the right place, perhaps this demon girl would have pounced on Noah and pushed him down, right? Meanwhile, the faces of the higher-ups of the demons had turned rather ugly. If it was an ordinary human who said that, wouldn't the pedantic upper echelons of the demons, whose egos were unimaginably high, be making things difficult for them? However, the one who said those words was an unprecedented godslayer, and the strongest red dragon emperor in history. If there weren't many people who believed that Noah could really slay a god before, then, now that even the leaders of the demons, angels, and the fallen angels had admitted it, no one doubted it. And to go against an existence that could slay a god. These so-called upper echelons who were calculating were not stupid enough to do that. It was definitely not worth it to offend a godslayer, with great power, the Red Dragon Emperor, for some verbal dispute. Although these demon leaders had high self-esteem, it was precisely because they were leaders that their starting point of consideration for a matter would only revolve around two aspects: whether it was beneficial or not. Therefore, none of these so-called leaders would do something that would not benefit them at all if they had a verbal dispute with an existence that could slay a god, and ended up offending such a figure. Hence, even though all of them had sullen expressions on their faces, none of the higher-ups of the demon world present chose to refute, and could only swallow their anger. In this regard, Noah just shrugged. Sorry, I'm talking to myself a little. Everyone, just treat it as a teacher nagging at a student. Don't mind it. Continue. These words almost made all of the demon race's higher-ups vomit blood. Nagging? A nagging was enough to slap the faces of the nobles of the entire demon world? Isn't this just purely used to annoy people? Of course, everyone knew that Noah was really infuriating people, and his purpose was to vent Songna's anger. With no other choice, the upper echelons could only choose to turn their heads away as if they hadn't heard anything. This made Seraphil laugh out loud, and it also made the upper echelons embarrassed. This heartless demon king had really done a good job of slashing people with his sword. It is my dream to establish a rating game school that teaches everyone regardless of background. With Noah's support, Songna returned to his usual calm appearance and nodded to the leaders present. I look forward to your guidance. After saying this, Songna left. According to this process, as long as the rest of the new generation of demons spoke of their future prospects, the four demon kings would then express their condolences, and the end would be announced. However, no one expected that because of the following words of another demon of the new generation, things would get out of hand. Before stating my future dreams, there is one thing that I hope everyone present can bear witness to. The one who said this was Diodora, who came from the Astaroth family, and was Aquika's blood relative. While everyone present was looking at each other, Theodora turned around and walked in a certain direction. Not long after, she arrived in front of a startled young lady. It was none other than Aisha. Aisha Aljet, I finally meet you. Hearing Diodora's words, everyone, including Noah, was surprised. Diodora knows Aisha? On the other hand, Aisha herself was at a loss after being greeted by Diodora. Then may I ask? Judging from Aisha's behavior, it was obvious that Aisha did not know Diodora. Have you forgotten me? Diodora looked at Aisha with a gentle expression and said this. Then if you see this you should remember, right? After saying that, Diodora suddenly pulled open the clothes on her chest, revealing a scar. It was a scar that looked quite deep. Seeing the scar, Aisha couldn't help but widen her eyes. That wound, could it be? It seems that you still remember me. I'm very happy, Diodora said happily. I'm so lucky to be able to see my savior here. Hearing this, not to mention the onlookers who were still confused, Liath and the others who knew Aisha's past finally remembered. Noah also narrowed his eyes and looked at Diodora. Savior? Aisha was a demon's savior? Then the identity of this demon was about to be revealed. When Aisha was still the saintess of the church, she was branded as a witch because she accidentally saved a demon. It was because of this that Aisha was expelled by the church. The identity of the demon who was once saved by Aisha was finally revealed to the public. Since then, I've been thinking about you and couldn't forget you. Even when I heard that you were expelled by the church and lost track of you. I've been looking for you. Today, I finally see you, Aisha. Diodora knelt on one knee in front of Aisha, who was caught off guard, in front of everyone, and said words with a sincere face that stunned everyone. It must be fate to be able to meet you here. Aisha, I hope you can become my wife. Please marry me. I love you. This time, everyone widened their eyes because of the development in front of them. Diodora was actually proposing to Aisha. Aisha was taken aback and didn't know what to do. As if she didn't want to give Aisha the thought of rejecting, Diodora launched a fierce attack. I swear in the name of the Astaroth family that I will definitely make you happy. I also hope that the 4 demon kings and the elders of the superior demons present can be my witnesses. As soon as she finished speaking, Diodora reached out her hand, seemingly intending to hold Aisha's hand. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.